thought it'd be Chris because he's talking.
No. No.
Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the official episode 124 of Dudes and Beer. We are steadily moving up in the numbers as far as episodes go, rapidly loving it, getting out all over the place. We've got a great episode tonight. We have with you, of course, I am Chris Jordan, your host. With me, as always, is the stalwart Stephen Bishop and awesome Julie Connolly in the studio, as well as our good friend in the studio, Mr. Stone Winchester, here on this lighter side episode of Dudes and Beer. The lighter side is where, we don't necessarily have any focus.
Beer.
Well, it's more about the topic, and it's like sometimes we focus a lot on, upcoming technology, things like that. The lighter side is really where we just sit back and kind of yap and talk about stuff and talk about cool things. And this week we were supposed to be going to the Mecum Auto Auction in Dallas.
Sure.
And of course, Hurricane Harvey has precluded some of that. The gas prices right now in Texas are just out of control. People have been gouging gas all over the place with this false sense of gas shortage when, I don't know, my family's from Houston. I haven't heard anybody who's had to go to work be like, I can't find gas.
Right.
It's everywhere. But for some reason here in Austin, literally every pump was dry. And even Stone can attest to when he left Dallas, it cost like $100 to fill up his friggin' truck. For 20 gallons.
Wasn't it like $95 for 19 gallons?
So between that and the fact that I have to go lay a dear family member to rest in Houston this weekend, we will not be making the Mecum Auto Auction. However, we do have on the phone our very good friend from Schrader Motors, an expert in automotive restoration. Mr. Antoine Barnes is on the phone. How are you doing this evening, Antoine?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, my friend? Oh, doing fantastic. You just got a little muffled there from where you were earlier. Maybe it's just how you're holding your phone. But, yeah. So when we first met you, we met you at the Mecum Auto Auction here in Austin, which was our first one. I believe it was the second auction that they had in Austin. It was the last auction that they held in Austin also. But we were set up in the gold bidders section, and they're doing our show and loving it for our first on-location episode, and literally ran across you. I saw you there in the gold bidder section with the detailing rag hanging in your pocket.
And
I
he
was
had
like,
a piece of paper. Jotting stuff down.
Yeah, he was writing some stuff down, and it was like, this guy is really following stuff pretty hardcore.
Right.
I'm going to go over and see if he's involved with one of the cars going on. And sure enough, come to find out, he worked for Schrader Motors, which specializes in Corvettes, things like that, but also does all kinds of classic restoration. And we were more than happy to have him on that first live on location episode, and we've had him on Mecum since then. So welcome once again, Antoine. How was your trip into Dallas?
It was pretty good. We had a nice little flight and pretty smooth and easy. Had a little worries that, leaving out of St. Louis, he's seeing some storms coming through, but they got ahead of that and made it down here pretty good. And just got down here and checked on our cars. We weren't too okay with our setup as far as our collection, but we're not complaining though, because I see quite a few collections right here. And we're just glad and happy to even have a spot with these collections.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about this evening. Is that's a big part of the Mecum Auto Auction, not just the memorabilia. They have like a tractor auction, but the fact that they have a lot of collector auctions going on, where it's literally like full collections of cars that come to auction from somebody's private collection. Tell us about the collection that you have right now, how you came about it, and what you had to go through to restore these cars.
Well, actually, it was a guy that knew my boss's father, and he came across the car. He's had the cars for years, and he really lost interest in the cars. 2 out of the 5 cars ran. And once I came across my boss, and he understood the work that I do and valued the work that I do and appreciated everything, and know that I can pretty much take these cars from a barnyard find to a showroom on Meekham's auction lane. He came across the cars and he was just like, I really don't want to get rid of these cars because they're pretty much worth a lot of money, but, I know you'll take care of them, you appreciate them, you make them look way better than what I could ever do. And he was like, well, all right, well, I don't just want to love for nothing, so made him a pretty good deal with the cars and gave them to me, and he was like, look, I need you to really do some good work for me because this right here, they only made 257 of these cars, and it was the Meekum brothers, not Meekum for the auction, but a different set of Meekum that made my Trans Am. They took them and went and done like special graphics and different things to the motors, and just made it different from just a regular Trans Am. They only made 257 of them. So to get a whole 5 of them was like a big deal because that's like the largest collection you get of 5 Machos at one time.
Yeah.
So when he came across it, he was like, yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, I'll take care of you. I'll take them cars, and once you get them across the block, then, let you know what we do. And me, I was just like, sent you pictures. Did you get the pictures of them?
Oh, yeah. No, as a matter of fact, I was going to tell our audience, please feel free to go to dudesandbeer.com, check out the post for tonight's episode 124 there on the homepage, and you can see the slideshow of images where the engines are original and then restored, as well as the images of all of them together in the collection. How long did it take you from the time of find to turn around to get these ready for auction? Because the work that you did was absolutely detailed and incredible there, Antoine.
Well, actually, I get on the car from repainting, redoing the motor, cleaning, detailing, polishing, and everything, full restoration. And usually you will get about a good 2.5 weeks on the car.
Wow.
And once the guy came across it, he was just like, he talked to Dana at the Meekum, and he was just like, well, I really want to do something big with these cars because I think they're really something big we should do if we can get them ready by Dallas. And then we picked these cars up, exact date, I want to say it was June.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So shortly after the last Meekum then? Yeah. All of a month or so after.
All 5. Like I said, 2 out of the 5 were running, but we still had to go back through them and restore everything.
Oh, wow. Only 2 of the 5 were running?
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
The cars hadn't ran in years.
Now, these all came from a single owner, is that right?
A single owner, yes, sir.
Wow. Now, what is it like to find these people? Because, like I said, all of the car dealers that do stuff like what Schrader does, the people even at Meekum, go through great lengths to go out. People like John Carmen, Kramer, rather, who is the actual head of consignment. He actively goes out with the Meekum family to find these collections of automobiles. And like you said, when Dana Meekum heard about this collection of 5 classic Trans Ams, it's pretty hard to find one of these things, much less 5 of them in one spot.
Right.
And what's it like to come across literally an historic find like that? You're a fan of classic muscle and iron, just like I am.
Needle in a haystack, honestly, because you never come across nothing like that. That's why when he came with them with this problem, he was just like, I can't turn it down. You got 5 machos.
Yeah.
If I'd be a fool to just say no to it. So,
well, and explain.
The guy, like I said, he dealt with his dad. His dad passed away in 2009 or 2002. Yeah, I'm sorry. And his dad started the company back in '65.
Yep.
So once he said Schrader, they know that about what they said. They're gonna give you top dollar for whatever car you have. It could be the worst looking car in the world. They will still give you top dollar for it because they know once they put the money into it,
Yeah.
They're going to make probably 3 times the money off of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
what he gives them cars, I mean, Gary, he got guys that he dealt with for over 40 years. And it's constantly the same people he's always dealt with. So when he comes across these fines, he got guys that are out, like right now as we're speaking, he's probably got guys out in Florida, guys out in Tennessee, guys out all over the world looking for cars that they know
that'd be a
are
cool
probably
job.
barnyard fines.
Yeah.
He had split windows that he took down to Florida. He had a split window, 67 Corvette.
Yeah, and it's literally people like what you see on American Pickers and stuff like that, who are out there cruising for that kind of stuff, everything else, and then they come across things under tarps and barns, and they're like, "Hey, would you be willing to get rid of that?" Like it was. It was Grandpa's old, 67 fastback.
Sometimes they find this shit out in the barn, like out in the middle of a cornfield. Like, hey, what you got under that tarp?
My friend did. He went to buy a 65 Malibu and saw a tarp in the garage and saw one end was higher than the other and asked about it. The guy had bought the car for his son right before he left for Vietnam.
Damn.
Ran it, started it regularly, everything else. Pulls it off. It's a Super B with like 50 miles on it.
Oh.
Whoa!
And he bought it for $5,000 from the guy.
Wow.
This guy just didn't want to hold on to it anymore. Yeah, it appraised at some ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, as a comic book collector, even if you sit here in the studio, you see signed comic book stuff all over the place, stuff like that. There are those finds there, and there are places that you can go to like regularly find those finds. Like there are people that cruise the auto auctions and buy junker cars and stuff like that are collectible.
Give me that Pinto.
If anything, just to part them out to people like Schrader Motors to be able to get the parts to restore other things. So how often is it that you'll have people call you with collections like that, where they're like, "Hey, yeah, I've been trying to put DeLoreans together for years, and I've got like 15 junker DeLoreans sitting in my back lot. What would you give me for them?" How often does something like that happen? Where
It's even
worse than an idiot. You're just not going to find that.
You're talking about the DeLorean.
Go ahead, Antoine.
We get a lot of those too.
Yeah.
What an analogy on that one.
Well, I mean, literally, because like I've seen it before. My dad has been in the tire industry my whole life, and it is something that like whenever you're going shop to shop, like there are people who have been going to the same mechanic for years and years, and whenever it comes time and Grandpa dies, who do you take your car to sell it?
True.
The dude that's been working on it for 30, 40 years is who you take it to first off, because they'll probably know somebody that'll want to buy it.
Or they'll want it because they'll put a lot of love into
and
it.
he'll switch it around.
And that's pretty much how it is out there. I mean, my boss, the company was ran by my boss's mother and father. His mother is still there. She's 87 years old. She's the bookkeeper. She comes there every day. She never misses a day. And we look at this old lady like, why don't you go and retire? Because it's her company. She don't want to go anywhere. She's there every day.
87?
87 years old.
And a bookkeeper. Wow.
She still drives it. She has to drive a Cadillac. She hates Corvettes, even though it's a Corvette capital. She hates Corvettes, but she wants her Cadillac. She drives her Cadillac. It's funny. I'm here in the city.
I could slightly understand that. I've driven some Corvettes, and as much as I love them, I don't know. I can't do the fiberglass body thing.
Yeah,
I can't. I'd much rather drive a solid steel Cadillac.
I drove a Corvette back from Houston. St. Charles. That was the worst ride ever.
Yeah.
I never want to drive a Corvette.
I never want to drive a Corvette.
They look cool. They are quick. They're decently quick off the line,
Julie's
but they're squirrely, man. They bounce around a little bit because of that light body. They don't have a lot of weight holding all that power down.
I don't like the long front of it.
So for you, you got to kind of be into that Batman thing of like, I'm just trusting fate right now.
There you go.
Like I don't care what's 10 feet in front of me.
Yeah. Got all that in front of me.
It better look out whatever's 10 feet in front of me right now.
In the back of me.
There's so many curves.
or at least half of it in the back of the
Now, for you, Antoine, as long as you've been doing this, what has been the most personal project that you've taken on? Like, for me, it would be one, like, if I was restoring cars, if I love old Studebakers. If I found like an old Studebaker, like that would be the one for me to work on. What was the one?
Remember that we did that last interview with? And it was about a blue and white Chevelle.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be the one.
Okay, and I remember you saying that that one. What was it for you that made the Chevelle such an important project?
Because it was just. We got the car, and it was pretty much nothing. In the time and sweat and tears we put in that thing, as far as losing money, gaining money, it was a bumpy road. But at the end, Chevelle was one of those cars, and that's pretty much how I grew up in. And so it was like a family car we had when I was growing up with the Chevelle. Yeah. So I've always loved those cars, and it's just like, man, I got the opportunity to work on this when they bring it back to where it's like somebody will really take care of this car and appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, we did a lot of different things to it as far as changing rear ends and motors, and it wasn't just a factory car. We did a lot of different things to it.
Well, and that's just it. It's not just that's what a lot of people don't realize. It's not just body work. It's not just engine work. It's everything from the ground up.
Right.
Like from finding vintage wheels that are period that actually match the originals, to finding serial numbered parts that are within the same series and run.
So, Antoine, how often do you find a car, a good year, model, make, or whatever, and but it comes down to it that it's costing too much or will cost too much to restore this vehicle? Has that ever happened?
Quite a few times, because we get a car and think you're going to make more money off of it, and you actually lose a lot of money off of it. I mean, but it's just a part of the game of it, though, because you really can't just base off. Because one year, I know we brought certain cars to an auction, and it was like, man, these cars did so great. Well, shit, let's try this again,
Right.
Come back next year, it was like, holy cow, damn, what was we thinking?
Well, and that's just it. Like it's kind of like property. Whenever you're talking about vehicles, because the trends, even amongst collectors, change year to year. Like, you've got your diehard collectors that, yes.
Right, diehard guys.
Just about any market you go to, kind of like tonight when I mentioned that we were going to be talking about a collection of 5 Trans Ams. First thing out of Stone's mouth was, man, Bandit. Like, that's my car.
Right.
Black,
like, who did...
And then when people say macho, you know what they start thinking? Macho.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and like I told him,
I kind of do too.
You're hard pressed to go to a Mecum without seeing a Bandit on display somewhere. Like there.
I want to say every Mecum I've been to had a freaking
10 more. I mean, they were just the black and gold.
Man, he says just.
Yeah.
There's no just about the black and gold. That's the most beautiful car ever made.
I gotta say, man, those honey...
Look at this machos.
I swear that's the highest dollar one.
Oh, yeah.
White, blue,
and,
the blue bird on the white.
What was it? Yeah. What was it for you, Antoine,
nice.
that made the machos so unique? Because I'll get to mine in a minute.
Me personally, I've never seen no machos. So once I've had the opportunity to look at these cars and really see what they were, I was like, okay, they are a little different than just the Trans Am. Machos, but I mean, it's still pretty much a Trans Am, just a little modifications done to it. So, okay, that's why it's macho. So, and then they only made certain cars. You had to order these cars.
Yeah.
So they wasn't just like you can go on a assembly line or go in a car line and be like, yeah, I want that right there. No, you had to go in here and especially pick out what you wanted on this car.
Yeah, it's like the SRT Demons or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember those guys.
And we got to see the SRT Demons in Houston and stuff like that.
Yeah, I want that part right there on the lot. No, I gotta order this. I need to order that, and I want this and I want that. It can't be just like everybody else. It's got to be something different. You're only making 250 of these cars, so okay, well, I need mine like this. And that's why it came down to just the machos. That's why it's a collection, because you can't just go and find 5 of these at the same time.
Yeah,
that sounds ridiculous.
And for me, I think what really made the Machos pop anyway was amongst others was the it was the wheels. It was the wheels on them. I mean, I'm the son of a tire salesman, and I spent my life like in the back seat of a sales car.
The actual wheels,
with tire
not the
samples,
tires, but the wheels.
The wheels themselves.
Yeah.
And like my dad would come pick me up every other weekend, and then we'd go make his rounds to his salesman, and then we'd go to the lake house or whatever. And While he was in the office talking business with shop owners and selling $250,000 of tires, I was out front checking out wheels and rims and stuff like that. Right. So for me, wheels and rims have always been one of those that just it tightens the package up.
Right.
It really ties the aesthetic of the car together for me, because that is it. It's like shoes. Good God, I wish I could find really good, nice shoes for my size 16 feet.
Gold honeycomb.
But I could, exactly. If I could find some gold and black honeycomb for my feet, but I got size 16 feet.
I think Shaq might be getting rid of some of his.
No, here's the thing: you can't buy Shaq shoes that big.
What
Believe
size
it or
are
not,
his actual?
23.
Oh, too big then.
Yeah, and you'd think that a man with size 23 shoes
would understand.
But no, I understand what you're saying too, though, because I think that's when I say you got to do a car, you got to make sure at least the tires look right. Because I agree with that. That's like a part of the wardrobe. You got some clean shoes on your feet with the wardrobe. If the wardrobe looking good and the car looking good, the tires got to look good on there. With the wheels.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and for me, it's the fact of one of my favorite music quotes ever. I worked for years in rock and roll, and my buddy's uncle's band used to play at a little blues place in Houston. Tons of people would walk in. One of the people was Billy Gibbons, and he came in one Wednesday night, saw my uncle's band play, ordered a beer, and at set break he was like, "Hey kid, you got some good chops," and he looked down and went, "You need to get some better shoes though." That was his only advice, was you got some mad chops, man, but you need to get some better shoes. And there was Billy Gibbons in some nice pressed creased blue jeans with like $300 wingtip shoes on, like bam, like total blues man representing. But that's the thing, is the wheel is where the rubber meets the road. Like that's where the car starts to translate from road into car for me. Yeah. And for me, like the
that's
wheels,
where the performance of the vehicle starts. Is from the tires up.
And for me, especially with that series of Trans Am, it was like Stone said, it was those honeycomb wheels, man. That beautiful gold and black. Just
seen some of that.
It was so beautiful and simplistic.
Me and Stone were checking that out.
It's my favorite car, but that's absolutely the only part of the car I ever hated.
Really?
I know. I hated the wheels. I think they're fucking ugly. I really hated it. Put some center lines on it. Stainless center lines, and it's just untouchable.
I'm thinking of a different wheel that the Trans Am is also known for, but not the honeycomb one. It must have been another.
There were other ones when they decided that
they had the Outlaws on there for a while.
I think it's the Outlaw. I'm thinking.
Yeah. In the future, someone's not going to like this.
As we round things off here at the bottom of the hour, tell everybody where they can go. Of course, they can go to dudesandbeer.com and check out the post for this evening's episode and see the slideshow pictures. But tell everybody where they can go to check out the further work in the realm of automotive restoration of Antoine Barnes.
They can look me up on Facebook. I'm on Facebook at Antoine Barnes. I'm on connected with Dudes and Beer.
Yes, you are.
Instagram, Antoine Barnes.
That's Barnes with an E?
Yes. Like the hospital. I wish I had a part of it, but they didn't want to include me. I don't know why.
You're just making car auction money.
Right.
Hey, Antoine, I was going to ask you, Antoine, how many people you got helping you when you restore?
Just me.
Just you?
Wow.
Yeah.
I got one mechanic that does I got one mechanic and he does all the motor work.
Jeez.
That's why I say when these cars come in from not running,
it's amazing.
He gets them running, then he gives them to me, then I take them apart and I do everything.
Yeah, he does all the rest of it.
Damn.
And it is some amazing detail talent, that he gets into. When do your cars actively hit the block at Meekum? Because I definitely want to be watching live. Everybody make sure to go watch live on YouTube. You know what? I think I'm actually going to make a Dudes and Beer page with that embedded on it, so people can go check it out on dudesandbeer.com as well over the weekend.
Yeah,
but when do your cars actively hit the auction block so that people can check them out?
Let's see, it's the Friday cars, and they're F-168 to 172. What time do you think those cars will go through that block?
Okay.
They start at 168 and they go to 172. So I'm asking a couple of the meeting guys I'm sitting here with.
So you have a little time.
So you've got a little time before things actively hit up and start going then? Uh-oh.
I was like between 6, anywhere between 5 and 7.
Tomorrow or what?
Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Friday.
Fantastic. Yeah. So I was going to say, I know things typically kick off with Meekum on Thursday, but Friday and Saturday are the really, really big days for auction typically. And where are you headed to after that? I'm sure back home to Schrader, but where is the next big show after that for you and Schrader Motors?
I'll probably skip Louisville. I might go to Chicago, but Vegas will be the next one, really.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I know you guys travel all around the country with collections with Meekum and stuff like that. So,
actually, my boss was the guy that helped Meekum get it all started.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember that story.
And, thank you so much for taking the time while you're there to be on the air with us, Antoine. We will definitely be telling everybody to check that out. And like I said, we will be putting up a link to the auction live on the Dudes and Beer website as well. So thank you so much for being on this evening, man. I appreciate it.
Good luck.
Hey, take care, Antoine.
Yeah. And, we'll be in touch soon. And also, congratulations on the engagement.
Yeah.
Congrats.
When is the big day? When is when's this lady get really lucky?
It'll be soon. I'll be in touch and let you know.
All right.
All right. Nice.
Congrats.
Yeah, congratulations, man.
All right, thank you, man.
Fantastic. I'm more than happy for you. Take care. We will be in touch soon, my friend.
All right.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Well, and I love talking with Antoine. He is one of the just most laid-back people in the world doing the stuff that he does with absolutely amazing work in the classic car realm. And, just for us not being able to make it to Meekum right now was horribly saddening for me. I love doing Meekum. I love it. We were invited to do Dallas, but with stuff with the hurricane and everything else, it just
I feel like we need to make Vegas happen. I feel like
think
a
we really
car
do.
show in Vegas would be bananas.
I like Vegas, man.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the plan.
Although I
like it.
hadn't been there since '85, but
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
When you were like a toddler?
Yes,
That was the last
you got
time
it.
you were in Vegas?
Yes, she's
You
on
were like-
track.
You were 8.
It is time to go back.
I leaned up against
Yeah.
the slot machine and they said, "Ma'am, please take your kid away out of here." And I'm like,
They called you ma'am.
Yeah, hey, ma'am, you need
No.
to get your own self out of here.
It was that long ass hippie hair. Is what
God
did it.
damn hippie hair, even at 5.
Well, and with you being back now, Stone, because part of last week, Julie was gone because she was incredibly busy with her job as an insurance adjuster because of Hurricane Harvey. You were actively up in Dallas on a gig, working, but we're still stricken by stuff from Hurricane Harvey because of the gas prices on your way
home. It didn't
home.
even rain up there.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and that's why it's such a great bug out location because you're
It was
never
a terrible
gonna.
bug out. Yeah.
You may
That
you
place.
yeah,
Anyway.
Yeah.
but
I think we've all...
$5
Have you
a
lived
gallon.
in Dallas? I know we've lived in Dallas.
Yeah.
I could do without
I've
it.
never lived in
Yeah.
Dallas. I visited, but I never lived there.
I wish it no ill will, but I could never live there.
I hated the highways over there, but I'm sure
Yeah.
they say the same thing over here. So
Well, and it was interesting
Rightly so.
because you were stricken up in Dallas by the fuel panic going on because of Hurricane Harvey. Last week we talked about Hurricane Harvey a little bit. We had Billy Dorsey on from the Broken Wings Project, who was actively stranded in L.A. Not just that, but lost a family member to the flooding.
he lost a family member an hour before we went on broadcast last time.
That's when they found him.
Man.
well,
He had been missing since Saturday.
And he was still able to do the show. What a
Well, I mean,
trooper.
he was in L.A., far away from his family. It was
Yeah.
his wife's cousin. So it was one of those, like, I can't really keep my wife away from her family at this moment.
Right.
And there's nothing I can
Right.
really do. I'd much rather be on a show and be occupied
Yeah,
than be
totally.
thinking about it right now with the fact, because I know you're like me, Stone, like, if you couldn't be there at that moment, like, you'd be just fucking driven crazy.
No, she would be off with her family.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be invited anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know her cousin.
But it would drive
I
you
wouldn't be
crazy.
upset at all. I don't even know these
Yeah.
people,
You're
but
like,
she
whatever.
would. It would bother her.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And he was just the fact of, I couldn't do much about it. I'm here.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and...
Well, yeah, wife's cousin.
And you were not here because of
Jeez, I was so busy. I was
Yeah.
exhausted. I got out of work and I forgot
Yeah.
briefly
Overworked.
about Dudes and Beer, which never happens. Usually all day Tuesday I'm like, yay.
That's all. Yeah.
And then no, I got home and I was like, shit. And I just I hit my couch and I could not get back up. And,
Yeah,
like,
'cause
it
it
takes
happens.
a lot. Like,
It does.
It happens.
and I.
No,
that
go
sounds,
ahead,
like,
go ahead.
super shitty.
No.
To be like, it was
Say
hard
it.
to be really nice all day, but people are dealing with like so much awful stuff, and really it took a lot out of me to be really nice all
No,
day.
right,
Really,
all day long you have to do that.
quiet and concerned, and I really legitimately felt all those things, but I was
Yeah.
spent at the end of every day. I mean,
Carry
it's
on that
starting to slow
conversation.
down now because everybody's taking care of the big stuff. Everybody kind of knows where they're at. So
Yeah.
it's better, but the uncertainty those first couple days, it was tough.
Yeah, and especially with the gas shit going on, that blew my mind.
That's
the
so stupid.
the utter
Yeah, that is
panic.
dumb.
God, people are the
Stupid
worst.
$5 a gallon gas in Texas, where we produce 80% of the gas
so
in the
many people
country.
in line with their
With
boats
Well, and-
behind their trucks, and they're filling up their boat, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me? I have
well,
to drive back
maybe
to
if
Austin
they're
tomorrow. I have a
taking
quarter
the
tank.
boat
They're
to
taking the boat to
They're
Houston.
not. It was Labor Day weekend. They're going to the
Oh, well, then
freaking
those
lake.
are
Or
assholes then.
using it
Yeah.
as another reservoir to pour their gas in.
Totally.
Yeah, and
I
Dallas,
did
that's a
have that
different
thought
That's a really big
because
gas
I
can.
was out
Yeah.
of gas, and we
Yeah.
had a gallon in our lawnmower gas can, and I was like, well, at least I can get to work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my deal was the job was over the next day. I had
Yeah.
a quarter of a tank and a 5.6
It's not going to get you
or
very
8
far.
liter freaking
Truck.
V8.
Did y'all-
wasn't
did
gonna-
y'all see
I could make
anything-
it to Temple.
Anything crazy like Uncle Bob with his King Ranch truck with the big old things in the
Yeah.
back, filling it up.
Just a bunch.
Super Julie with
Yeah.
2 35-gallon tanks.
Yeah.
I know I did see a lot of people in the line I was in. A lot of people that I knew could not afford $5 a gallon.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they could barely afford
I can't afford
decent
$5 a gallon.
clothes to wear
Yeah,
in
you
public.
could-
Like,
that
and they
was-
were
And they were
having to do it.
That's the shitty thing, because we had no gas in both of our cars because we're not planners. So we had to, and our gas was not that expensive, but we had to wait in line forever for it. And the people with the gas cans and 90% of those people had more than a quarter of a tank of gas. My light was on. My
Yeah.
husband's was about to be on. We had to get gas, but
I
it
live
was
on
like-
about a quarter tank, and I operate off the theory
Yeah,
that
you
that
look
is.
like a quarter tank guy.
Well, yeah, here's why.
I'm just lazy.
Because my whole life, I've had 2 decent cars my whole life. The one that I have now, and I had a Hyundai at one point. Other than that, I've had used vehicles, stuff like that. And my concept is this: no fucking car thief in the world is going to stop and gas up your fucking vehicle. They're going to stop and steal another car.
Well, they're gonna
So
jump
if you
from one
leave
to
a
another.
quarter tank of gas in your car,
they're not getting very far.
you're going to find your car within 150 fucking miles of where it was stolen.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
You at least have an initial search radius
guess.
of officer.
Yeah.
When they stole my car, there was 4 gallons in it.
Yeah.
I get 30 miles a gallon.
Yep.
We're
Here's
looking
your
at a
radius.
120 mile radius.
Yeah, I kind of like like that. Yeah.
That's funny. So you always just put 2 gallons. Like, okay, I'm good.
So unless I'm
I'm good.
unless I'm going on some crazy trip or something, like I leave enough gas in my car to operate. I live 3 miles away from my studio.
Yeah.
I live 5 miles away from downtown where 90% of my gigs revolve. I live 5 miles away from the airport where I travel out of town. Other than that, I maybe got to go to Callahan's
I'm
and buy some
start
chicken
doing that.
or HEB.
I'm gonna do that with the guy, the station next to me that I always fill up at. I'm gonna start putting in like
Your
$2 in each
car,
of them.
they would strip it though because you've got a really nice car.
Yeah, you've got and granted, I've apparently got like
that work.
I've
You have
apparently
a very stealable car.
I have a very desirable car.
Yeah,
yes,
yours is one of the
because
most stolen cars.
even when I lived
Once
in
they
the
look at it, they
apartment,
won't want it. But
even when I lived, you remember, Steve? Even when I lived in the apartment complex, I would
What's
get
that?
random notes on my fucking dashboard.
Oh, yeah.
Like people would leave notes
I would
on.
like to buy your car.
Like, hey, I love your vehicle. If you're ever looking at selling it, and I got calls all the time from Auto Nation, like, hey, we have some people that are looking to buy a fleet of 2012 Camrys, on a used rate. If you'd like to come swap yours in. We'll give you a great rate, whatever you're paying right now.
dude, I tell you what, I had a shitty ass ragged out. I think it was '05 Buick Century, and it had like a side panel. The front fender on the left side or something was like discolored. Or no, I'm sorry, it was the hood. And then so even worse, probably, right? But
That's not great.
I always got offers for that car.
Yeah,
I'm like,
Maybe
what
they
the-
just
well,
figure,
it
like,
looked
you
like
want-
shit. It
let's
was
go.
ragged out.
Let's go around the table real quick because
Why do
right
they
now
want that car?
there are 1 million plus cars in Houston right now that are utterly disabled from the flood, and I guarantee you probably, as a Houstonian, everybody, I'm not just saying this. All right, I'm not saying it in some fucking blanket statement to talk about Houstonians, but probably
You would never do that.
Probably a good fifth of those were uninspected or uninsured. And
I mean, certainly a fifth of every
I'm
car
just-
in Texas is uninsured. So
maybe
since it's Houston, I would gather maybe even more than
it's
a
up
fifth,
more, exactly, and
Just 'cause
that's
it's a more densely
them's just the
populated
odds.
area.
You're
Yeah.
talking about a 6.5 million person city.
So we're just talking auto insurance, huh?
We're just talking about cars in general. But with that in mind, there are some people
Let me tell
now who, granted, have gone out and paid $800 for a car that has like $2,500 Blue Book value, and they're going to reap a little bit from insurance whenever it comes down. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
It happens. Let's just go around the table. What is the most ghetto car that you have owned? We'll start with you, Julie.
Because
you're on my right.
Started driving an '87 GMC Safari, and my sister, when she had driven it, she drove it to Dallas, and she took the seats out to fit something in it and put them in a storage unit, and then didn't pay the storage unit fees. So there were no seats in it. So it's just an '87 GMC Safari minivan with like gross
2 front
carpet
seats.
with 2 front seats. And my dad was so pissed because he bought the car, and she just
Nice.
like totally
A
she left the
Safari.
seats, and they
Safari,
were
wow.
gone.
Better
and
hope you're big like Chris or Shaquille O'Neal.
that was
like,
such a crappy car.
they just put you like a keg holder in the
Safari.
back and make it
Yeah,
into the party
totally. Like
van.
we
Yeah.
did
You know?
like
Do that.
we,
It's the only
we
reason
had
why you
some
take the
fun
seats
with
out.
it,
Yeah.
But, she
That's-
was trying to move like a bed or something
Yeah.
and put him in storage. Never took him out.
Yeah.
Never paid the bill.
Well, because it was I'm sure it's one of those, like quite literally, like I told my nephew, because my dad, in his wisdom, I love my dad, he's great. I love many aspects of my dad. On occasion, the intent is really well-meaning, but the sense just isn't always there. And it was one
I
of
think
those
we could
like
tell by the
Well,
tone
we
of
were
voice.
children. I mean,
he bought my
sense in your
nephew
children.
this pickup truck, and I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Right.
But you realize what's going to happen with a fucking 16-year-old in Texas with a
gonna get
pickup
wrecked
truck,
or
right?
something.
No, literally, like you will have a bed full of your fucking friends.
Oh yeah.
That's what's going to happen. Like
yeah,
you're going to end
yeah.
up with a kid driving
Yeah.
around in fucking Katy
Yeah.
with a bed full of friends.
Yeah.
Is
Right.
what's going to happen.
Brian had that
You know.
Econo Club,
And-
remember, from college?
Yeah.
It was like an 18-seater. He had
And
no seats in it.
I had to warn him. I was like, hey, I'm just here to tell you there is a Texan obligation when you own a fucking pickup truck, all right? And that is the fact, and Stone can attest to this. When your crazy drunk friend says, I need to move some shit,
Yep.
That means you need to come help me move some shit.
Yep.
Stephen and Stone can attest to this, actually.
Because you've been to my house moving shit for him before.
I've done it.
That was the second time.
That was the second time. That was the second. That was the second move. Yeah, exactly. So it is one of those like you have kind of an obligation.
He got mad when I accidentally dropped the dishwasher, but that's cool.
Is it all working?
It still works.
Nice.
It's great.
So what was your shittiest car there, Steve?
Oh, my shitty. Well, I swear it's a Buick. I mean, that was a ghetto car. I mean, man, it had so many issues, and the hood was. I think the hood was like a light blue color, and the rest of the car was like, what is that color? Almost kind of like this table, almost.
Brown.
Like a taupe.
Something, whatever those
wood
century
grain
Buicks come in back in
the woody paneling.
05 or whatever the hell that was.
That classy stripe of wood down the side.
Hey, but I tell you what, in high school I had a Aerostar van, and I took those back seats out. That was pretty shit.
Yeah, did you put a mattress in there, bro?
Yeah, you're on that line, yeah.
Just a big spray painted sign on the back that said Stephen's Party House.
Somebody even suggested that back in the day.
Of course they did.
That's crazy.
Mine was always wanting a
crazy.
couch in the back of a van. I always wanted a couch.
Why am I going to let people know what I'm doing in there? It's supposed to be
And
secret.
see, you would strike me as one that would be like me and totally have like the fucking Vanagon that was totally pimped out. That had the sink.
Okay, so I had a
Go for it,
1976. This wasn't ghetto. This is pretty pimp.
Yeah.
But, I guess pimps live in the ghetto too. Had a 76 pop top camper VW bus.
Nice.
That had
cool.
the sink, stove,
Nice.
refrigerator, fully stocked.
That is pimp.
But the guy I bought it from was in the military, and he'd been all over the Middle East. And I guess when he was in Turkey, I guess he took this van all over everywhere he went.
What?
When he was in Turkey, he had it reupholstered, and it was Cookie Monster blue velvet
Sweet.
interior with the little brads like you'd see on furniture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
Like
funny.
furniture tax.
You
Furniture tax, totally.
And it had a booming stereo system, like $3,000 stereo. It was just the most ridiculous.
And this was ghetto back in the
That is
day?
funny.
This
No, it
sounds
wasn't.
awesome
I've never owned a ghetto vehicle.
Yeah.
I'd say probably the most ghetto.
What's the cheapest
Vehicle?
vehicle that you've ever purchased?
It was 1982, 81 or 82 Datsun 200 SX.
For how much?
Damn.
Okay, that wasn't the cheapest I bought, but I probably paid $800, $900 for
All
it.
right.
Damn.
The cheapest I bought was a 75 Firebird.
Oh,
It
that's
had a
cool,
hood
though.
scoop. Like
That
it
sounds
was a
cool.
hot rod. I had a
Runner?
crackhead neighbor. Oh, it was balls to the wall. I paid $400 for it
Oh,
because I had a
son.
crackhead neighbor who was always trying to sell me his dishes, his couch every day. He was knocking on the door. Hey man, you want to buy
Say,
some
man, say, man.
silverware? You want to buy
Hey, man.
something? And I finally got. I said, dude, I'll give you $400 for that car right now. He said, give it to me, you know. Of course, the next day he was knocking on the door.
Oh, yeah.
Give me that
Next day he was knocking on the door,
First.
man. I need my car back. I was like, too fucking bad.
He's like, give it to me.
Fucking hot rod. That's fucking
Dude,
Then you
find a
gotta
deal with the
move like
crackhead.
that.
that car was
Yeah.
just balls out. It got like six.
I'd
6
give him.
gallons to
I'd
the
give him
mile
a
or
picture of
something
it
like
with
Dude
a
was
phone number
dumb.
for help on the back.
That's a Meekum car for sure.
Oh, it was pretty badass.
Yeah. I gotta say, probably one of my favorite vehicles that I ever owned was the cheapest vehicle that I ever owned. My girlfriend in Maine
Geo Metro.
was utterly fucking scared of the thing. She would not get in the shit. She did not like driving it. I had a little Saab Turbo that I got in.
What's wrong with this Saab?
Well,
gonna
this
say,
thing
isn't
this
it
thing
kinda
rode
upper class?
like slightly over the height of this beer can. On the, like maybe this high
Those are
off the
good built
ground.
cars.
They're dope, but it was standard and it was sick. The only stereo I had was like a little fold-out powered speaker that I had powered off the fucking cigarette lighter with like my mini disc
You have,
player
like,
and shit.
home stereo speakers
No,
like
I
that.
just had some little Radio Shack fold-out speakers.
What
bro.
year was this again?
This was this was like 2006. Something like that.
And how
It
old
when
was
I
the
lived
car?
in
What
Maine.
year was the car?
Oh, it was like in '92. It was like a
okay.
'92 Saab Turbo.
Yeah.
Like 9,000.
It's, So that reminded me, I was wrong.
Oh, 6
I
and
did
92
own
car.
a really ghetto car.
Okay.
But I didn't own it for long. But when I bought that Datsun 200 SX, it was a replacement for this car. So I bought, it was like a 1980 VW Rabbit.
Oh, my
wow.
mom had a
VW
1980
Were
Rabbit.
VW
shredded, like it was
Rabbit.
terrible.
Was it
Yeah,
diesel?
no, the rabbit
No.
sucked ass, dude.
But this is how long I owned it. So I bought the car and I drove off the lot. I made it like 3 blocks and the engine caught on fire.
Oh my
Jesus.
god.
Yes.
Apparently they had never put any oil or no, it was water. There was no water in the
No
radiator.
water in the radiator.
So I got out. I got out. I called the fire department.
Oh,
They
geez.
put out the fire. I walked back to the car dealer. I said, "Did you see the smoke? That's the car you just bought.
Right.
You just sold me." They were like,
Oh.
"Pick something else."
Anything else you
I
want on
said,
the
"You're
lot?"
gonna have to get that thing towed back here. I'm not even." Fucking.
Like,
So I was happy with the 200 SX.
Yeah,
I
like
checked the radiator.
I got the.
I mean, you
I
went
got
yeah,
the-
right? Like all the fluid.
I got a
so
phone
it's not
call
good.
one day. I had
That's amazing.
moved.
Pick
I had
something
moved to Maine, literally on a free round trip airline
Where's that
ticket.
Corvette?
I had a free round trip. I had traveled for 3 years on free round trip airline tickets. Little piece of travel advice.
What are you,
folks.
Tom Hanks?
No, if you are traveling by yourself, put a pad day at the beginning and end of your trip. All right? Because it is so frequent that they oversell flights that they literally say, if anybody has flexible travel plans, we will give you a free round trip airline
Oh,
ticket
yeah,
and
totally.
hotel stay if you can delay your flight by 3 hours. Boom. Right here. I used my first trip to move to Maine. I traveled almost for free for 3 years. It was crazy
Holy
because
shit.
I always put a pad day, and it was literally like, "Yep, right here." Like you know me,
That's
I'm
pretty smart.
anally early to
I like that.
everything.
My wife has about
So,
6
yeah,
of those a month.
like if you show
Really?
up a good 2 hours before your flight, like I do, like 2-3 hours before, because hey, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go and have a couple drinks at the bar, then I'm gonna meander to my gate with like an hour left and sit there
Literally
on tablets and
I
shit.
don't know how y'all do that, man.
Stumble over to your
I
gate.
swear, like, when they stopped letting you smoke on a plane is when I stopped drinking on a plane.
Oh no, that's
I'm not
just it.
going
I don't
4
drink
hours
on the
with a
plane.
buzz.
No, yeah.
No,
cigarette.
my plan is I start a movie and I
right?
pass out.
Oh, yeah.
I start a movie and I pass
I'll
out.
wake up every 30 minutes.
Like,
wanting
sir,
a
what are you
cigarette.
doing?
Yeah.
I'm lighting up.
My addiction is going to wake me
Yeah.
up out of that.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I'd have to
and-
take some Quaaludes or something to stay asleep.
So I had moved to Maine by like a week of living there. I had a gig at a club, and I was working part time helping a dude fix houses. And I called home and I said, "Hey, sell my car. I live in Maine now. I'll see you at Christmas."
Damn.
About a year later,
Hello.
that whole time I took the bus, everything like feet of snow, like 3 feet of snow. I'd be on the fucking bus on my way to
and
work.
you weren't used to that
shit
shit,
like
huh?
that. But I'm a Texas boy. I
Yeah,
was nowhere
yeah.
near used to it. And now I'd like never ever need a heater again in Texas. Like it does not get cold enough for me to put a sweater on, for me to break out my actual winter clothes.
Right.
It doesn't happen. It's like 55 degrees, 40
So in other
degrees.
words, you
It's
adjusted
beautiful.
to that type of.
Oh, I
climate
lived
rather
in an
than-
uninsulated attic until February.
Yeah.
Like literally, it was like snowing outside, and
That
I was in
wasn't
an
torture?
attic with nails.
That wasn't
coming
like
through.
torture at the time?
No, actually,
No?
it was kind of all right.
It was all right.
kind of okay
Well, that's
because it was one of those. It was kind of a meditation thing for me. It was
Right.
kind of a monk type existence, and it took my roommates going, "Listen," because I had a full time job at the time at IDEX Labs testing equipment before it went out.
Right.
I was the pack out department. Can you please grab
Will
me
you grab
one
me
as
one
well?
too?
You can grab me one too.
Thank you, guest.
Thanks.
Wow, abuse.
He's like abused.
Yeah,
You just got tapped,
He
bro.
just got bam. He just got bam.
So there I was working at IDEX Labs.
IDEX Labs.
IDEX Labs doing blood testing equipment and packing it out, quality control,
Oh, yeah.
making sure it's all ready to go
That's
with all the
such an awkward
software.
angle over there, isn't it?
And then
I know, right?
at the same time, 4 or 5 nights a week, I was mixing at the club. So it was
That's good, man.
crazy.
Yeah,
I
that's-
lived on 4 hours of sleep a
That's
night.
badass.
But literally, my roommates were like, "Listen, we do not see you. I would get home by the time they were asleep at like 2:33 in the morning, and I'd be gone by 7:30 a.m. to catch the bus
when
to
you
be
have
at work.
roommates, that's the way it should be.
So,
Don't see their
well,
ass.
kind of. But see, these roommates were friends of mine from college,
okay.
and it's one of those, like, whenever it starts being like 3 feet of snow on the ground and it's February, they're like, hey, you really shouldn't be living in the uninsulated attic in Maine anymore. You should, like, move down to the study.
Thought you were going to say their
So,
room.
yeah, there I was,
Snuggle up.
living in this situation when my buddy John calls up one day from New Hampshire with his girlfriend, and he's like, hey, my girl's neighbor is selling this car
Oh, yeah?
for, we have some chats. Oh, we have chatses. Dean, what's up, guy?
What's up, Dean?
Dean.
Yeah, the airport owns a heater in Texas. Must be fresh out of hell.
Anyone who owns a heater in Texas must be fresh out of hell trying to
Hey, Dean needs a beer too,
Yes.
Sony.
So, yeah, there I was, and he was like, hey, here's this Saab next door for sale for $250. You want it? And I was like, fuck yeah, I want it. Because the glorious thing about New Hampshire, and you probably know this, Julie, being from Massachusetts, is that there is no state inspection in New Hampshire. So if you buy a vehicle,
tax.
there's no sales tax also.
Yeah.
So
Fucking
what?
awesome.
$250 is $250.
I wanna go up
That's
there.
what
Not
it
even
was.
on alcohol.
But not only that, it's the fact of in those neighboring states, if you buy a vehicle there, you don't have to have it inspected until the next year.
Yeah,
So
I'm all for
it's like,
state
hey,
inspection, though.
between I'm
Anybody
with
that
you.
was around in Texas back when they didn't
I'm-
have one.
I'm
Man,
with you.
every 2 feet
And-
on the freeway there was a broke down
And-
vehicle.
and
or
I'll get to that.
Smog
And all
coming
this
out the back of
smoke.
I'll get to
cars.
that
Oh.
because there I was with
True
a
that,
club
true
that
that.
was going through noise ordinances. So I knew the cops at 3 a.m. Like, hey, how you doing, Bob? Like we knew each other, and. Well, this thing wasn't the most sound vehicle, let's just say, as far as sound was concerned. When it did come a year, I paid $250
But
for
you
it,
said it
and
had
like
the system that you
$100 to
plugged
register.
in the cigarette lighter, right?
Well, yeah, for sound, but
Yeah.
regardless of that, the muffler on it was shot.
Oh, okay,
Like
that's the
I
sound.
literally when it came a year where I had to get it inspected.
Yeah.
Because you have a year after purchase
Not
in
'cause you
Maine
were
from New
blasting
Hampshire.
music.
No,
You were
I
like,
was
"Let's
literally pulled
register
over
you
because
in
of my
New
muffler.
Hampshire."
Damn.
And they were like, "Hey, Chris, what's going on?" It was like 3 a.m. on my way home from the club. It was like, "Yeah, I got inspection like next week. All right, cool." And I went to get it inspected, and they come out and they're like, "Yeah, you need to come here and see this." And they held the light up, and it looked like a fucking disco ball going through the frame. It was just holes all in the frame. Like he was like, "I
Damn.
can't even legally have this thing up on my fucking lift right now."
You're like, so $10?
So yeah, so I sold the car for scrap for $350.
What?
All right.
Made $150 profit
There you go.
on it
Okay.
for scrap. Or actually broke even because it cost me $150 to register it in the state of Maine. But for that money, I didn't have to call cabs for a year. I didn't have to fucking take
You
the
got your money's
bus.
Yeah.
worth.
I totally got $500 worth of use out of the thing and loved it. Like actively missed it, and still to this day have the Waldo license plate up in my house. I can highly recommend, even if your nickname is Waldo, folks, don't get a license plate that says it, because everybody will announce your presence whenever
I
you
found
drive down the.
him.
Yeah, hey, look, I found Waldo at 3 a.m. when you're leaving the equivalent of 6th Street.
Yeah.
You're going to hear that
Exactly.
The
1,000
Maine
fucking
equivalent
times.
of 6th Street?
Yeah.
Because Maine has an equivalent
Yeah.
of 6th Street.
It does,
There's
and
like
that's
9
how.
people there.
That's how I've described.
Cop
Actually,
pulled your ass
whenever
somewhere.
people
I
were
guess.
like, "Oh, what's Portland, Maine like?"
Oh, Portland. Yeah, Portland's nice.
No, and that's just it. It's like Austin with an ocean view. Imagine Austin having cobblestone everywhere.
So they
Better
got tons of
accents.
hipsters.
and
They have
They
some
do.
hipsters,
they do.
Better
They
lobster,
do.
though.
And
Better
much,
beaches.
yeah,
Ooh.
much better.
I like that.
And,
It sounds better than
you know,
Austin now. You got
I
lobster,
love Maine
and
beaches,
you're one
man.
And yeah, that was my cheapest, most ghetto car was that Saab, and I loved it.
Yeah, that would suck, Dean.
Yeah,
Bye,
imagine being
Felicia.
named Felicia today. Dean says on our chat, and that's true, especially from the '90s. With
Bye, Felicia.
Why does that?
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
Friday,
why.
bro.
Okay, yeah.
Friday.
I was gonna say, why does that ring a bell?
I recently
It
saw
rung a
a
bell.
shirt, and it was Saint Felicitas, the
Yeah.
patron saint of goodbyes.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. Her son is going in the NFL right now. He's a really good football player.
Yeah. Yeah.
The actress, not
From
Yeah.
Friday,
character.
right?
Friday,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not the character that
No,
her
not
fictional
the
son
character.
grew up real good.
Not
good,
Debo.
good.
Plays the
Debo's
foosball.
son.
Yeah, not Debo's son.
Don't play that
And,
foosball.
yeah, that was one of my favorite movies for years and years. We,
Oh, hell
we
yeah.
watched that
What you
on
got?
the legs. What you got on my 40, homie? I keep saying that will be my son's nickname as he gets older. Will be
Fody?
Debo
Oh.
from Dalbus.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you take off all your
It
jewelry
works.
and hide that
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
My grandmama bought me that.
Yeah, my grandmama bought me that shit.
I do that and the run every time my wife acts upset about my grandmama bought me that.
He's gonna cry in the car.
Better not have no ball or bike either. He'll take that damn bike.
Well, and I don't know. For me, cars just. I've had so many over the years. It's odd. I didn't think that I would be like 40 years old and be like, yeah, I've had like 8 vehicles in my life. But yeah,
I've had a lot of cars, too.
I've
Oh
had
my
a
God, I've had
shit
8
ton of
vehicles
fucking
in a
vehicles in
2-year
my
period.
life.
In that 2-year period.
I get really bored and constantly
Yeah.
Just trade them in
or find
I
somebody.
want to say I might have had 8 in a decade.
I traded a 1970 dual cab VW dual cab pickup. If you know what that front looks like, the bus and the back is a truck with a.
Yeah.
I traded that for like a '78 Bronco, like jacked up. You
mean the OJ one?
Go way better than that. I had 35.
That was
Mickey
82.
Thompson's on it.
Sorry.
And then
It's the most famous model.
within 4 months, I traded it for something else.
Yeah.
A lot of VWs.
Yeah. I remember my sister, or stepsister rather, at one point had a what was it? It wasn't a Rabbit. Was it a Scirocco?
There you go.
The hell is
Yeah,
that?
VW Scirocco. That was.
I used to want a Carmen Ghia. I thought those were the cutest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a classic VW guy.
I don't know if I'm familiar with that.
Now the
70s
new ones
and-
coming up from VW, the new electric buses look pretty fucking
The,
sweet.
Yeah, they're
the new
so
minibus
cute.
is
Yeah.
pretty dope.
I like
Those
that.
look pretty damn sweet.
Kind of a purist.
Yeah. That's it. I'm a big fan of the old
70s,
microbus.
70s or nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's just the fact of you can go in and replace that engine for
Man,
like
I
$400 or
could drop,
$500
I could
all
drop
day.
a 1500cc doghouse engine in 10 minutes.
Damn.
Bam, have another one in there in
Yeah.
another 10 minutes.
Damn,
Yeah,
work for
and
me.
go out
Yeah,
and
just 3 bolts.
Yeah.
3 bolts and a jack, and it's out.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
it's all
Damn.
it
and they're so cheap that you can replace the whole engine for like $850.
Well, I made the
all day
mistake
long.
of doing the 2-liter a couple
Oh,
of
yeah.
times, and it's a Porsche engine.
Yeah,
So the part, the water pump on that is used $500.
yeah.
Water pump on the regular engine, $25.
25, 30
Yeah,
bucks.
yeah.
Big difference because
Yeah.
it's Porsche,
That's some performance though,
Or
probably,
VW.
right?
Oh my god.
No,
but
it's
the same
still
shit.
That was
creeped
the
up a
same.
hill. I lived in Tennessee driving
Yeah.
VW.
You still have to turn the
It's
air
still a-
conditioner
It's still a
off to
damn
get up
3.
the hill.
Yeah, it's still a damn 3-speed VW.
Only 2 liters in a big.
Yeah, it's not
you know.
Well, and, speaking of technological leaps, I'm going to take a leap right now and
Oh,
bring us into
you gotta
our
go to the
other
bathroom
topic
or what?
for the evening. No, no.
That's a leap.
And the other topic for the evening is the militarization of space. And it came up today on a discussion in Facebook.
The face group.
Yeah, there's a face
good
group
old
out there.
face
It's on
group stuff. Somebody was talking about how there's this new call for a space defense department, and funding has actually happened for an actual Department of Space War. And there have been.
Would that be a new thing?
I was
Wasn't
gonna
that
say
a Reagan thing?
exactly.
Well, yeah.
That's what I was
Star Wars
thinking.
program.
That's the
That's what we
thing.
talked about
That's the
earlier.
thing.
This
Is that
is
there were
nothing new.
Yeah, well, there were active treaties in place with the UN for years, since like the 60s,
Right.
that prevented the weaponization of space.
Right.
And that's why the Star Wars
Until about
defense
the
platform
Reagan-
was
yeah,
like
Reagan thing.
even then, even up until recently.
But he was trying to change that.
the UN stuff has just recently come to a point of maybe we need to do something. I mean, just in the
I don't
last...
think it's recent that they've decided.
Well, and I don't think it has anything to do
Well, it's definitely not recent, and that was the point that I brought up.
It's just more to our attention as
the
civilians or whatever.
Well, it's the fact of the space program to begin with was started as a branch of the military.
Right.
Like, there's a reason why all of the pilots from astronaut, there are thousands of friggin' test pilots across the country that are not military,
right.
that test military aircraft, that test for
right.
Northrop Grumman, that test for these
a lot of
things and
them
stuff like that.
Were military, you know.
They were military
Retired
at one
Air
point,
Force,
but they aren't
whatever.
anymore. But
Yeah.
it's interesting how this civilian...
Or captured Germans from paperclip.
It's interesting
Von
how
Braun.
this civilian space program, this scientific civilian space program known as NASA, always had military pilots.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them came straight up out of the Air Force. You know, they had science officers. They had other people that were there doing scientific stuff. 90% of our technology now comes out of the space program.
I mean, maybe because they can handle a certain amount of like stress and uncertainty that most pilots wouldn't necessarily be able to have.
Well, like I said, though, most of the guys that were the original astronauts were military test pilots. And whenever you're talking about that,
right?
Whenever you're talking about that nowadays, you're talking about like civilians. You're talking about military contractors, not necessarily military employees,
right? With
Northrop Grumman and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So even the test programs now that have happened, it's interesting that they've not only drawn from the government to recruit these people,
but now from outside.
But that stuff like the X-37B, which just landed like a month ago. I want to say it was like June or May that it landed from a 2-year unmanned orbit. So that thing's been up there circulating around for 2 years. Doing whatever it's doing. That's pretty sweet. That's pretty awesome that we've had an unmanned aerial spacecraft up there for 2 years.
And managed to bring it back.
That's
right.
I mean,
that's a big.
You know, you're all of a few years younger than me. You're all of a few years older than me. So you definitely remember the first shuttle launch. I don't know if you remember the first shuttle launch. Atlantis, all that good stuff. But whenever it first came about that we were going to have a reusable vehicle for space, like we hadn't even made space launches other than satellites since the 60s.
Yeah, I hadn't
or
really
70s
thought about
rather,
it until
70s, the mid
SpaceX,
70s.
when they talked about reusable, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, you're like, that's true, because what a
Yeah.
waste of resources.
Right.
this whole
True
time.
that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, whenever you think about anything that's been launched up on staged rockets, the fact is you lose. And
There's so many components come
just-
apart as you go.
Just
I mean,
as a model rocket builder, I'm here to tell you, like, your chances of finding all the stages of your rocket, you better have some pretty good wind conditions, and you better be pretty good at your trajectory. Because, of course, the goal in model rocketry, just so you know, folks, is to land as close to the launch platform as possible. It is quite
I thought
literally.
It looked like super nerdy.
Well, it is, but it's so super nerdy
If
that
you
it
can
is
do
the
that while the
exact.
Earth is turning, man, you're pretty badass.
Exactly, and that's the goal of SpaceX. Literally, is to launch from a platform and land on the platform that you just launched from.
Well, I guess I was going to say they got like some.
It's just uber model rocketry. That's all it is. It's uber nerdy model rocketry where they've actually gotten it to the point that it goes up and comes right back
$1 billion
down.
Basically, the
model
nerds that
rocket.
went join the military
Yeah.
are doing better work outside on their own
Well,
business.
they have more resources.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and more
that's the
resources.
thing, is
more
there's,
money
there's
available,
more funding,
more-
and there's less oversight.
Well,
Yeah.
well, and that's the
Exactly.
thing that you.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
the thing
the
that
oversight.
That's the thing that comes to bear with all of this, especially with the X-37B stuff like that. And it's basically hidden money. It's money that is there for unseen projects,
black project money.
black projects, stuff like that. And it's the literal military complex, the people that are the contractors that we have to worry about, not necessarily the government. It's not even the government. It's the contractors, because they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Mm-hmm.
They've got almost no oversight in what they're
Right.
doing in private research.
Right.
yeah,
So when it comes to that, and when it comes to things like the X-37B...
I just have a problem with that shit when they up the taxes and they say we got a deficit. And I'm like, hey, you're not including what you're throwing out here to these black op projects.
well, yeah, it would be...
A lot of the SpaceX stuff, though, is funded elsewhere.
SpaceX stuff is totally funded
other
elsewhere.
than that, I'm
but
totally
the
for
military,
technology.
I mean, but think
Even
about
NASA
how much
is.
money we waste on terrible things all the time. Like, why not throw some of it to a space program?
Well, the problem is, though...
Shoot down lasers one day.
Well, and that's the thing is, we already do have laser-based platforms. We already do have, like, they just recently, all of about 4 months ago, tested the first mobile laser platform. They tested the first active laser platform about 4 years ago, where they shot down a missile in flight with a laser.
Awesome. And I feel like that might come in handy.
And that's pretty sweet.
How long ago was this?
4 years.
Oh, they had that shit before that, I think.
Not. They had it in theory.
Sounds like
they had it. They had it in idea, but they didn't have it in full reality by release of the military.
Yeah,
Let's
now
just
there's
say
the
that
laser cats. I mean, they're doing all right.
It wasn't
Sounds like
tested.
a Tesla death rate.
It wasn't tested by the Navy and said like this will be a weapon system until 4 years ago. So
Official to the
I'm not
public,
saying
basically.
it wasn't
Yeah.
in development, much like we've said on the show here with radical empathy whenever we were talking about computers and Moore's Law and the fact of whatever you have out on the shelf that's like the quad 16 processor with like 48 gigs of RAM, whatever that is that's on the shelf, the government is working with something 5 generations bigger than that.
Yeah, right.
CERN has petafarms.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and
whatever
even
the hell
you.
that is.
And that's one reason
you.
why I wanted you here tonight, Stone, is because you worked in the
bigger than
telecom
soda?
industry.
Mm-hmm.
You actively set up telecom networks, things like that. So you know the fact that what is out there and what's actively being used is
way
a
beyond
good
what you would believe.
few generations beyond what we, the consumer, are actively using.
If we even
Way
think of the
beyond
next
that.
step, it's like 20
Well,
billion
you don't
steps.
think you just don't think about it.
Yeah.
You don't realize what's involved in when you dial that phone and talk to Germany.
Yeah.
Like
You don't realize the
what
rings
your
and
voice
protocols
is
it
just
goes
blinks
through.
of different colors of light and timed with other blinks of light. There are other people's voices at the speed of light across the globe, and now your voice comes out of the other end, and
to
the
make
shit
that
that
happen.
goes through in between in the in a split second.
Right.
It's insane.
Well, and it's like Dean just
That's
said.
insane.
You're worried
Just
about
thinking about
lasers when they have when they made a sonic cannon burning to death versus having my molecules expanded to the point they explode.
I mean, both sound.
Which
not
one
good.
is that?
And quite literally, that's like straight out of Lawnmower Man. That's what Lawnmower Man did to the people.
I just
Was
rather
like just
drink
take their
myself to death.
molecules.
Sounds
I'd rather
more
drink
fun, you know.
Yeah.
Just give me a warning. Hey, we're gonna kill you. Okay, I'll drink.
Hey,
Right?
tell
give
you
me,
what.
Give me 8 hours.
Bang some heroin.
You
or something.
give me a date I need to be gone by, and I assure you cirrhosis will take me by then.
You're so
I'll jump out of an airplane with no
I love you,
parachute.
Amy and
I'd like
Dalbus.
to-
This is the government that's making me do it.
That's crazy.
Really crazy.
It's like it's like the Monty Python, The Meaning of Life, where you get to choose your own method of death. You know, and it's like this man has chosen to be chasing off a cliff by a mob of topless women. You know. It's
I mean, if you gotta go, make it
hey,
fun.
hey, if you gotta go and you got your choice, you know, and it is one of those with the space program, with stuff like that, with like I said, the X-37B being up for 2 years. Many people wonder, like, is it possible for the government to keep stuff like that secret? Yes.
Oh, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Like, good God, they kept the Manhattan Project secret for like 5 or 6 years.
It's a
People
lot
didn't know it
harder.
existed till we dropped.
It's a lot harder now to keep the
It's
secret
definitely.
stuff.
I would say it's somewhat harder,
mean,
but
we,
even
we
Keep
think
your
we think the
social
world
media
is so
turned on.
much worse now.
oh, it isn't.
But no,
It's
everybody has
like
a camera
90%
phone,
safer.
and you can see everything that's going on now.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well,
Yeah.
but
I
even
mean,
think
people were
about it though.
kidnapping kids
Even
and doing horrible things
Yeah.
back then
Oh,
when I was
to
a kid.
much greater
You just
degree
didn't hear
than they
about
are
it unless
now.
it was on the news.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and even when Snowden came out, because that poor man's still on the run. Good God, at that point,
I mean, on the run, he is, but like he still gets to be a celebrity and be on TV all the
he
time.
still gets to do some interviews and stuff. but he is an active wanted felon by our government
Right,
for
he can't come here.
for literally letting us know that the government was collecting all of our, and I'm sorry, but they say metadata. That's nothing big, but it's literally like the most important information out of anything is the metadata. Like,
Which
that's the
most
big
of us
data.
just willingly give up anyway. Like,
exactly.
why is it such a big deal that
I
we
gotta
told
tell
everyone?
you,
We're like, kind of already we know.
Yeah, but it's the fact of that crazy thought was proven.
You know what's funny, though? Because he's still out there being not able to come back.
Yeah.
None of us give a fuck. We're all still on Facebook. We're all still talking on the phone.
And we will be.
I fully understand that something that I'm going to have talked about tonight, I'm going to get like 9 emails about tomorrow.
Yeah.
But he's still over there. Like, all he did was tell us that this shit was going on.
Yeah.
And, like, we're all fine with it, so I don't
I
understand
gotta
why
tell you,
that's
I'm
such
a
big
little
deal.
jealous of all you people who have something.
What do you mean by you people?
Ooh.
People who
I don't have anything to hide.
People
That's
who
what I'm
when it got
saying.
good.
I really have absolutely
I got
nothing
no
that
issue,
like
man.
I would
got-
tell them. I'm
Hey,
like,
you
hey,
know, like,
I like.
Here's the
money.
thing.
I
I
like
like
money.
turtles.
Right?
Like, what the hell? Like,
I'm gonna put
I like
some
boobies.
chocolate
Yeah.
on it
I like
with
boobies. You got
cereal.
some on
Yeah.
the phone, yeah.
You know, it is that, but you do also have to consider the fact of there is that nifty little protection in the Constitution that you're supposed to have. And granted, don't get me wrong, we rail on it all the time that people have this expectation of the right to privacy on social media,
Or that the
you have
Constitution
none.
actually
You
means
have-
something.
If you want to be
Yeah,
private,
exactly.
don't
Go
be on
ahead,
social
Julie.
media.
Yes.
You know?
Thank you.
Just don't be on social media.
Exactly.
That's fine.
And-
Because, honestly,
You
there
don't
are
want it
people
known.
who aren't on social media who I will Google and, like, I know that they're extremely wealthy or they're well connected. You can't find shit about them on the internet.
Exactly.
Yep.
I've
So,
kind of done that.
I
yeah.
mean, it's
because if you pay enough money, you can have that
possible
info redacted.
to have privacy. Like, don't put your shit on social media then.
Suck
if you
my
have a
shit
big,
back out.
like, put it out there, bring it back.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
Bring it right back.
Bring it back
Bring it
real
right
quick.
back.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And yeah,
If you have an expectation of privacy, live a private life.
Don't
Yes.
don't make
Don't
your
put
whole
your-
life public.
yeah.
Yes.
Checking in at this restaurant.
Right,
Here's the
Yeah.
enchiladas I had for
I
dinner.
for sure
Right.
checked in
I really
here.
don't give a fuck
And even
about
here
your
recently,
enchiladas.
like
Yeah, I know,
even-
right?
I
They
might.
look
I
great.
love enchiladas. You can tell me about like the best enchiladas.
Yeah.
I might care.
I felt
And-
bad when I
I
posted
do.
my
Every-
brisket.
That's live.
everybody here and most of our
was like, I
listeners
should do
know
that.
that I used to
More
work for
enchilada
Alex
pictures.
Jones.
Who cares
and
about
I
my
used
damn
to-
brisket?
And you know, for me, it's not even that. It's the fact
I'm
of
one of them now.
I've literally considered lately, like, yeah, every time I put a picture of my kid online, that shit's being biometrically tracked.
Oh, yeah.
Like, quite literally, there is a biometric map of my child's face. It exists.
Yeah, no, totally. Because like you
It's
put
there.
up a picture,
Yeah.
and it just
I
automatically
never-
gets tagged.
Even all of 4 South bys ago, and
Or
Stone and
South
I can attest to this because we work a lot of the interactive shit, we work a lot of the technology shit. But about 4 years ago, Taco Bell had a booth where it was like, "Come get your face mapped and get a free taco."
Now that's fucked up, dude. I've
Awesome.
never heard
I
that.
hope that all
shit.
this talk
And-
of Taco Bell gets
Get
me some
your
Taco
face
Bell
and-
facts
Right?
in my email.
I wouldn't mind some free
Ancestry.com.
Frito
I could go
tacos.
for some free taco.
And-
Bell.
For one taco?
You know, and
I
it
get
is
my face map
yeah.
for a free taco.
Yeah. And you got to consider that's like a 59-cent value menu taco, and you're talking about giving up some pretty decent
Straight to the
biometric
CIA.
information.
But I
Database.
take 1,000 selfies a month. I'm okay
And-
with it.
okay, but see, here's the one thing that you have to consider: your phone necessarily, at least not yet, isn't using an infrared scanner. If it was
Taco Bell was trying
if
to...
it was using, I don't know. But they could very easily use that. Even banks right now are talking about using iris scanners instead of a PIN number. So that's a cool
And
idea.
you have to be Wesley
but
Snipe in
but
the
like we've said on
Demolition
this
Man.
show before, remember, that same iris scanner that's an infrared laser can read your blood pressure, just like the infrared scanner at a hospital.
Yeah.
It can read your blood alcohol content. It can read whether or not you've smoked marijuana.
Right.
And hey, Lord forbid that you've withdrawn money 3 blocks away from a strip club for the last 3 weeks. Your bank may decide the fact that you don't need to be spending strip club money at 2 a.m.
Regulate your own self, right?
Man.
You know, and that's where the creepy face technology comes in, is the fact of all it takes is an infrared laser.
Sometimes I would like a text like, "Are you sure you want to buy these extra moves on Candy Crush?" I'd be like, "No, you're
Yeah.
right. I
Candy
don't
Crush.
Are
wanna
you
do
sure that you
like,
would you like
or
an
whatever
immediate
it is?
would you like an
know?
immediate
Candy
text
Crush.
whenever you go in to be like, "Are you sure you want to buy these Jimmy Choos?"
No, I do. I'm sure.
So you need a little voice to help you
and
out.
see, that's the thing. It does kind of lead to that. And it's so entirely simple.
Is that what we
Like,
become?
and that
but
was.
I feel like it would also be used the other way.
That was
to be
my
like,
thing.
"Hey, come buy these Jimmy Choos." Like, you know.
Oh, no,
So
most
then,
definitely.
then we
Oh,
stop thinking all
Man, I
together.
hope I get a coupon
And
for
we
Jimmy
have to
Choos
rely on
after
that little
this.
voice
And
all
that's
the fucking time.
and that's what checking in socially is.
Yes.
That's what
Yep.
you know.
That's what I
Even like Amy and I literally had it happen last time we were in Vegas. She came last time I was in Vegas for a gig. She came and visited me for a couple days. And as we passed by on our way out to Caesars, we passed by this venue that I was like, "Hey, I've considered having episodes of Dudes and Beer whenever I'm here live
I
from
remember
this
this,
place
yes.
because it's cool as hell." And I mentioned it by name. I did not check in there. Nothing. When we walked back by it later and we walked into the establishment for me to talk to the head chef
They're like,
about
"Blink,
possible...
blink."
Suddenly, they followed Dudes and Beer on Facebook automatically. They literally tagged me there. It was all automatic.
So why you-
Yeah,
and
it's
it was
crazy how
it
fast
was
it
literally
happens.
by me talking around my phone as I GPS
Every
past
day.
that
Right,
place.
right.
I know.
Like
I
just
like
the other
it.
day, I was
And-
talking about chickens, and
Yeah.
I looked down at my phone, and there's like,
So there was
That's why I'm
some
really
type of
hoping
audio
that
capture
Jimmy
or
Choo
listening
gives
device.
me
Yeah.
some
Right.
sort of
Audio,
like
right?
30
Jimmy Choo,
second
Jimmy Choo,
off
Jimmy
right
Choo.
now.
just keep saying
Jimmy
it.
Choo.
Oh, we're not
Jimmy
really
Choo.
Choo.
I want some Jimmy Choo money too.
You're gonna
If
have
you
it in
make
your email
size
tomorrow.
Jimmy Choo, I'm here to tell you right now.
Jimmy Choo.
If you wear, if you make, wait a minute,
Did
hold
you-
on, let me
did
do
you
the
just
math.
say Jew
No,
or chew?
Chew.
Okay.
Jimmy Choo. If you do the, let me do the math real quick. If you make size 17 and a half women's pumps, I will wear them.
I'd like to see you
That's
walking.
That would be approximately a
Also-
size 16 in
Also,
men's.
Jimmy, I can't wear heels right now, so if you could
Yeah.
up your flats game, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
There you go.
flats,
There
even
you
the
go.
clog game.
Yeah.
No, Jimmy,
No,
don't.
she already
No?
said
No
never
clogs?
clogs.
Never
No,
clog.
no red
I'm
bottom
not a
clogs?
nurse.
She made that way clear.
That's Louboutin.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You
That's
go,
right.
yeah,
I'm getting my brands mixed up now.
Who got a bunch of people killed, Dean?
What?
Are we getting people killed actively right
Holy
now?
shit.
What are we doing? I feel like this
Who
is very
did get a bunch of
serious.
people killed?
Oh hell!
He
What
did.
the hell
Oh,
happened?
it's not me. It's a he.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
I'm off the hook.
I'm not going to lie. The things I've said on air may have very well cost people their lives.
I don't
Um,
think
It's like a
so.
Beavis
Well,
and
maybe
Butthead
Not yet.
episode.
No, you know what? Not
Not
with
yet.
other face either, because if anybody takes that shit seriously, they're
Yes.
wrong for that.
Thank you.
They're
And
some
wrong
do.
And
for
you
that.
rightfully realize the fact that whenever I post something on Facebook, typically it is 90% of the time sarcastic in post.
Right.
That it is
Right.
that it is
Not
the
everybody
point.
cool
does,
on a
though.
technology.
No, not everybody does.
They're like, oh my
I-
god. I'm like, no, he doesn't really think that.
So, the first time I've ever heard, I had no fucking clue. I was always like, I'm gonna read everything Chris ever posts.
Right.
Fucking like it's the word of God.
mistake.
Like,
The word of God.
I've been
Joel
arguing
Osteen,
with
yeah.
people.
I post a lot.
about shit.
It looks
that he
like
posts.
Osteen, but
No,
it's
I
Angel.
fucking read it, and Chris said so it's fucking
So
real.
it's true.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
It's
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Fucking make me look like an asshole.
We all
I
thought
had no
you
idea
were
that
the
any of it was
Messiah
sarcasm,
of the
ever.
interwebs.
Oh shit.
There are a couple of them out there that are, hey, we gotta
posted.
Nah,
He's done some
we
research.
gotta point out the
and,
irony.
Yeah, yeah.
Most of the
Holy
time,
fuck.
much
You gotta check the dates too, because
Yeah.
a lot of them are like
I get called out a lot.
2011. So it's like, oh,
Used
good. This
Well-
was so relevant 6 years ago.
well, most of that though is to point out the
Obama.
fact that this is
Still
nothing
relevant.
new.
Yeah.
It's the fact of it's nothing new. Much like we were saying about like this
Space lasers.
militarization of space, where everyone's like, "Oh my God, they're
Okay.
talking about making a military space corps." Like, dude,
I am
when
all for it.
when the Brookings
All for
report first happened, like the Brookings
All for
Institute is a think tank, and it's made up of people from like Harvard and UCL or
Hey.
UCLA. Thank you.
Hey.
Yay! You know those people.
UCL
like,
is the satellite.
You see,
Right, it's
you
like
know,
we don't-
like
Campus.
like
Let's talk about that.
Berkeley people who made the internet, stuff like that, and literally their job is to find out like what the effect of cow flatulence is on radar, stuff like that. What the health effects of a pack of ketchup
Okay,
are.
so if the cow
Stuff like
flagellants
that.
register on the radar, how about human flagellants?
No.
Not even
It's not
close.
Why?
It's not even
Same.
Why
close.
not?
Not even close
Because
because
of
Have
the
you been
potency?
near a cow
They've
when
got,
it
like,
fires?
Yeah,
a
you're
bunch of
right.
stomachs.
No, I have. So
The
I,
fact
yeah,
is-
you're right. There, you're right.
The amount of methane.
Yeah.
well, it's the
It's
fact
all
of
the stomachs,
Yeah.
right?
we have a stomach. They have ruminators. So yeah, they have like
They have,
numerous
like,
what would be
little gas
considered
generators
stomachs.
So
in their
much
butt.
methane.
Yeah.
Like 7 of them or
Yeah,
something.
You
I don't
like
know.
you
Yeah.
like
I'm not
that,
a
the
cow
cow will
person.
explode.
Yeah.
Jesus
Pretty
Christ.
bad.
It's true, though.
I could have
Yeah.
exploded my cows
Yeah.
when I was young.
So
I'm glad
you
you
know,
didn't.
up above that,
You're
it does
probably the
reflect
key that
radar
he's talking
signals.
about.
It does change things. It
Good
does
thing I
change.
didn't know that back
It does
then.
change weather systems, all kinds of stuff. Go
Don't
ahead.
kill
Scott.
Okay,
Young
so
pickup.
back to the subject at hand, and we were talking about the militarization of space.
Right.
You know, it's absolutely not for some global war.
No,
Absolutely not.
Now,
no, that was
It's
that was the
for-
original intent. That was like I
I mean,
said.
it's a defense net against
outside.
outside.
Oh,
Well,
like
and-
aliens?
No, that's what they've actively
mean,
come out and said, and I
well,
didn't
yeah.
have a.
They've already
it ticks
talked
me
about
off.
it.
I did
Slash North
not.
Korea.
I did not have a chance to
Not
find.
North Korea.
Nothing
Yeah.
to do with Korea.
Not little
Okay.
Kim.
Right now.
Not little Kim.
The other cats, they're hiding on the other side of the moon.
Yeah.
That kind of shit. Like,
That base over
Yeah.
there.
There's
So-
not aliens on the other side of the moon.
totally not been
Or Mars.
talked about
Well,
by.
actually,
like
what's
500
funny
people
is that
from
the moon
NASA,
of
but-
Mars, and even Buzz Aldrin talks about the moon of Mars
About the
having an
monoliths.
obelisk on it that
Who
they have
builds
no
the
idea
fucking
that's
obelisk
there.
and,
It's like
monoliths?
a perfect square and like almost a mile high.
So there's also
Perfect
that
square.
next to the San Francisco Bay or San Diego Bay or something. That's like a big perfect square.
Yeah.
It's under the water, and people think
Oh
that, like,
yeah, that's
maybe
where
that's
the
where, like, this-
Battle of Los
Yeah.
Angeles back
Yeah.
in the day, right in that area.
But apparently, that's just a natural formation. So these things happen.
Who says it's natural formation?
Well, and I mean,
know.
I'm not going to say it's
Fishermen.
not as
Right.
as
Me either,
and
I guess.
Both of all three of y'all know. Y'all have all been to my house. I'm a fan of geology and rocks and minerals. All right, and one of my favorite minerals in the world is fluorite. And my reason for it is because it's a true
for your
vision
teeth.
of what's called
I was gonna say, yeah.
not even
brush
that.
with it.
Slash mind
No.
control.
Mind control.
I mean,
good
that's
for
a
your
double
teeth.
whammy
You
right
know?
there.
Don't take no more than a piece
Let's
size.
not get into that one.
Win-win.
The pea size you better
The
call
fluoride
the
I
911.
have
Swallow.
is what's natural and good for you. Fluorite and or
okay.
fluoride, those things are actively bad for you.
Well,
Anything
they
that ends in
also
I,
do make your teeth stronger.
they do.
So, you know.
But
You take the good, you take the bad.
It's-
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It is interesting. It is
It
interesting
is.
though how toothpaste itself says if swallowed, call poison control.
More than a pea-sized amount.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says that.
More than a
Swallowed
pea-sized
so
amount.
much of that shit.
I know,
It's
same here.
weird.
And that explains a lot.
Don't take more than 4 aspirins in a 24-hour
That's why I
period.
can't
God.
remember.
I
Up to
take
like
8 at a
8
time.
now.
I
Yeah.
take like 8 at a time.
Yeah,
Well,
but my
I
ankle
take
broke.
it at
I
a
took
time.
5 at a time.
Yeah.
That's
No,
fine.
I'll smooth take
It
2 or
did
3
give
a
me an
leave at a
ulcer,
time, a few
but-
times a day.
I didn't die.
One
I
hit
just
of
got an
acid,
ulcer.
you know.
Yeah, one hit.
Hey,
No.
12.
One hit, 9 hits.
Grab me a But
I mean, no.
I'm here to party.
but
I
the reason
I
why
already with this
toothpaste right here.
the reason why fluorite is one of my favorite minerals is because of the fact of it's a
What?
cubic structure, and if you look at it, even the sample that I have at home, it's a huge cube that's made up of tiny cubes, and it's really friggin' cool because you get to
Alright,
see
the
this
cube.
like literal structure and nature that happens atomically within a mineral.
Like a Rubik's Cube.
So yeah,
Yeah.
All right.
and
But for nature.
My
and-
favorite
yeah,
mineral,
and
Rubik's Cube.
yeah, and
ahead.
you know, you do have those formations in nature; they do exist.
Got all
The
those
chances of
Yeah.
them being a mile high are pretty few and far between.
Hey, you
Yeah.
know where I
You know
stand
what?
on
We
this
don't know what the
subject.
shit
Yeah,
is.
I
in
like it,
Mars.
though.
Like maybe their
That's
world
true.
is different.
That's
and
true.
Such
You're-
that
The
But even the moon itself and the fact that it has a 7-hour
Was it
orbit.
Nelson or
When Mars is almost the size of Earth,
the bigger guy,
and their moon is almost as
tall,
far
but
away, is odd enough
Beard,
itself.
maybe.
but
But
not
it's
over
over
farther
naysayer.
away from the sun, so
Must
it's
be
gonna
Everything was
change things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Replacement?
but it's more the
much,
relation
pretty
of
much.
the size of the moon to the size of the planet
Right,
for
I
its
know, but it
rotational
also,
speed.
I think, it matters where it's located in the solar system, too.
To an extent. It's really more the mass of the planet that it's rotating around that determines its speed of rotation.
But I feel like if we
But-
took the Earth and the Moon and we put it somewhere else, it's going to slightly change
Oh,
that.
it would. It would. Most definitely. And you know,
And we'd probably die.
Well, we've
I mean, I am
we've
an
actually
astronaut.
we
had
would
a,
no longer exist.
we've had
No, we wouldn't.
Yeah.
an actual.
Because the sun is
Yeah.
God.
And you probably know
We
this,
talked
Stone. A
about that
woman in
before.
NASA just recently, I have had a year, within a year, had come out and said that she thinks that we're going to find life outside of Earth within a certain amount of time. And she said that on record in a video.
Hundreds of people
Well,
from NASA
we
have
say
come
that
forward with
forever.
stuff.
Yeah, I
No,
know.
they've come
Where
forward with
are
stuff
they?
that they saw.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm getting at, is that we have, like, astronauts. We have people that spend major
Fucking
amounts of time in
presidents who have
space.
said,
Yeah.
I saw the fucking
And,
UFOs.
yeah.
Right.
People
But
need
it's
to
all
just
blown
carry
off.
their smartphones
Buzz
with
Aldrin.
them
And
to-
even
so much
now,
shit.
even
Oh,
now, we're
they do,
talking
and it's
about
still
the
blown
fact
off.
that within the
Yeah.
last 5
In this country
years,
only.
they have assigned an intergalactic representative of the UN, who
I
is
want that job so hard,
who is
man.
well, you got to fight this nice lady from South Korea right now.
Well, she's got some problems
Which, granted,
with her neighbors
at
right
least it's
now.
a lady.
There could be a job
At least
opening.
it's a lady. We could have a dude in charge where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, what's up, dudes? What's, and have the chest bumping
Yeah.
I don't want all
situation.
that puffy chest.
You know,
You
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
have a chick in charge of that.
It's
'cause
You mean
gotta
to the
be.
alien?
It's gotta
Yeah.
be.
anybody but
Yeah.
Like
Hillary.
a super diplomatic lady,
But
too.
would
Yeah.
he even recognize our
Which,
own,
hey,
like,
if
like-
you're from South Korea, you're a pretty
whatever.
diplomatic
fuck
person.
Yes,
Like,
they
you've been
probably
living-
picked the absolute right person.
Yeah,
They'd be like, America, I mean,
but even
don't kill us.
even
You're
then, it's
definitely smarter than we
yeah.
are.
And that's one of the things that you have to consider is the fact that any civilization that could travel that distance would
How does somebody
be
get
able
that
to
type of
annihilate us like in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, but here we go to that distance thing again. Why that distance?
Not just distance.
We've only explored like 7% of the ocean.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. We
Well-
don't even know our own role, though.
Well, and
Yeah.
not just that, but
Or
even
what's underneath
my
it.
wife today, when we were watching Unacknowledged, because after this today, I was like, dude, I got to watch Unacknowledged.
I
And
seen that
oddly
so many
enough,
months ago. And I love
oddly
it.
enough,
Love
Dr. Greer has become my connection on LinkedIn. So hopefully we will get Dr. Greer from the Disclosure Project on.
Yep, in
that would be dope. But he is actually one of the people out there that risked his career as
He started as a doctor.
a trauma doctor.
yeah, yeah.
He was a
Hence
trauma
the
doctor.
Doctor in his
Yeah. well, yeah, but I mean,
They
a lot
could've
of
been a
people,
philosopher.
They
a lot
came
of
to
people,
him.
exactly. All
He
you got to
knew-
do is go to school for another 5 years,
He
and you got
knew
a
the
doctor.
same as
3, I think.
the CIA or
Well, you got to go through masters first,
or
which is
more
2,
so,
then-
and they came to
That's
him
it, yeah.
for information.
I went through
At one
part of
point.
my master's.
At one-
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Like he has actually gone through and independently collected a lot of evidence, independently collected a lot of stuff, that really shows a path to what we were talking about, where this concept of a secret space program, this concept of the X-37B is nothing new. It's something that's happened for a while.
It's more than just a
nonsense.
hearsay or just verbal. I mean, what I like about his type of work, Stephen Greer actually puts out the facts and can prove things that he's talking about, or some basis
Well, yeah,
to go on.
he's got active documentation.
Did you
documentation to
read
prove it.
Dean's Messenger? Love it.
And Dean's like, I'm telling you guys, Earthlings are just a super advanced version of sex robots left here by the aliens and black holes. and the black
closet
holes
door.
are the closet door hiding us in the dark from somebody's mom.
I like this
And
dude.
I feel like next time we have a lighter side, we should have Dean on.
Yeah,
That's
I'm with you.
our
Yeah,
biggest
I'm with
fan.
you.
I'm
Is
about to
Dean-
be replaced.
because you know I'm
Yeah.
about the sex
No,
robots.
he's
Yeah.
serious.
Oh,
He said he lives like 5
Yeah,
minutes from you. We
he's
work
right
serious.
down the road.
Yeah, we gotta have Dean on.
We gotta have Dean on sometime. He's super fun, and it is one of those.
Well, yeah, that sounds like what is it like in Genesis about the giants mating with the.
Well, even if think about it, if we were. Think about it in terms of
Anunnaki getting with us.
Not just that. There was.
You take what the Bible and you take other things.
There was actively just a new tablet found from Sumeria that shows like the most accurate trigonometry calculations that we've had to date of the solar system. Shit like that.
Yeah.
And whenever you're talking about that, like. More than 3,700 years ago, like 5,000 years ago in history, that's pretty incredible. To know that these people in cuneiform writing knew more trigonometry about the solar system than what we know now.
It's like the Aztecs knew so much about astronomy without the fucking shit they have that's more accurate than our own calendar.
That was the Mayans, not the Aztecs.
I'm sorry,
But I did post that article today on Dudes and Beer, actually, in the Dudes and Beer group, how they've just discovered an odd anomalous black hole that doesn't fit like with normal black hole expectations in the center of the Milky Way. And that's exactly what the Mayans said, was that there was something that was drawing everything into the center of the Milky Way. Like this was tens of thousands of years ago.
And they say that's so hard to pick up a black hole, like looking for it because it's so black,
that was an interesting thing that Stephen Greer brought up in the Unacknowledged documentary, was the fact of we accept the knowledge of black holes when there is literally less physical evidence of their existence than there is of UFOs. Whenever you're talking about 3,500 instances worldwide of physical evidence where there are pad marks on the ground, where there are anomalous burn marks, things like that.
They're seen by entire cities and by everybody on a daily basis around the world. They're filmed. We blow them off. Only the U.S. government has actively. Yes. Made an effort to discredit.
Go ahead, Jenny. Go ahead.
Are they sighting then? Like, if people see them sporadically here and there, and like all the sightings, then
not even sporadic. There's parts of the world where they're seen daily.
Yeah. Not just that.
Daily.
Like
Mexico City,
Stephen Greer actually showed the footage and the paperwork from the French government showing that they actively communicate with them. And they show them like circling around them with lasers, and the craft like pulses back to them.
This is the only
all kinds of wild
U.S.
stuff.
government is the only government who doesn't acknowledge
it
their
is.
existence.
And even whenever I worked on the radio, I had Paul Hellyer, who was head of the Ministry of Defense in Canada. And he attested personally to numerous cases off the coast of Nova Scotia, things like that, where things had been recovered.
Right?
But
Canadian?
He was the Canadian Defense Minister.
Yeah, one of the highest political officials.
And
you're obviously a skeptic, and that's fine. So there's a comedian. Okay, let me tell this story real quick. A comedian, I forget what her name was. She was talking about. She was watching Ancient Aliens. She kind of likes to watch those shows, and her brother came over and was like, "Oh my God, you're watching this stupid shit,"
Right.
She's like, "Yeah, it's really interesting." And started talking about. She was trying to get him to just kind of grasp. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Look at fish.
Yep.
She's like, fish in the ocean. Occasionally, there's a sighting of a boat. None of these fish have ever seen a human. Occasionally there's a sighting. Somebody swimming in the water. Occasionally a hook comes down and somebody's dragged up into their ship. And
what the hell, dude?
And there's all these milk cartons laying around on the bottom of the ocean with pictures of their friends, like they're missing, Occasionally somebody shows back up and they're like, "Where have you been?" You won't believe.
Holy shit,
I was abducted by humans.
Yeah.
And they threw me back. They poked at me. They took this thing out of my mouth. They measured me and weighed me. Put this thing on me. No, that's not,
But
it's too all the other fish are like, "You're crazy."
Yeah. You're a crazy person.
If they're real, where are they all?
Yeah. Well, and...
whatever.
Not where I can see them.
Right.
I'm not saying I should be able to see them all the time. But like,
would you want to
Bigfoot-
see them all the time?
Yeah, if they're around, whatever. Because if they're
Okay, 'cause-
already here, they obviously aren't planning to kill us all.
Maybe.
Well, and that was
Maybe
that
they're
was
letting us plump up.
well, and that was the point that
I'm ready.
That was
Okay.
that was
Right.
the point that Stephen Greer brought up. Was number one, any civilization that could travel that distance, if they did come interstellarly, any civilization that could travel that distance, despite our nuclear arms, would absolutely annihilate us, like
Right.
within the blink of an eye.
Right. So
Well,
like, I feel like
So
if they were
the
here,
the
we'd be
fact
dead.
of and that was their thing. Was
I think they've
the
already
fact
made
of-
contact with government
much
officials.
like
and
we're
have a-
talking about the hype behind gas shortages and things
Why?
like that.
If they had that
The-
kind of power, why would they make friends with government officials? Why wouldn't they just come in
Easy.
and mine us for
It's
our
easy.
resources?
Here's the answer.
well,
It's
and
all
that's
been written down.
That's what happened with the Anunnaki. That's what happened with
So,
the
They
people in
came,
Samaria.
according to the writings,
Yeah.
they came.
Go ahead.
The writings.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
From
came in
ancient Samaria,
Right.
absolutely.
They've been around
Samaria.
for
Yeah.
This
10,000 years before
This
the Bible
is their
was written.
history from what they say happened.
That they've
Quite
been
literally.
here. The first time they came was like 450,000 years ago. It's all for mining purposes. Gold, heavy metals, which they need for space travel, for whatever. Gold
Same
is the
thing
best
we do, electric
conductor of
circuits.
electricity.
That's
best-
the ancient Indian beta text also
The
say
Indians
similar?
were
different. That's
just
different.
Yeah.
so.
But it kind of they
They
do imply-
sophomore compared to-
they talk about wars between alien
Oh, yeah,
races.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
But they don't talk about the slavery of mankind.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
for the
that
purpose
that
of mining.
mankind
Oh,
was
okay.
created to. They were tired of doing the work.
Yeah.
The workers
Right.
were like, "Fuck this! I don't want to
Yeah.
do this shit. It's fucking hot here. I'm tired
Yeah.
of doing this." So, real easy in a lab if you're that advanced. That what they said they went and they
Quite
they
literally the
used
plot
their-
of the movie Stargate.
Basically, they used
Right.
their DNA to crossbreed with beasts of the field on Earth to
Yeah.
get some kind of
Slave.
species that would do the work for them.
Yeah.
Which would explain our stupidly, obsessive fascination with a fucking yellow rock.
Yeah.
You know, like why we
In the
and to
image
have
of
that
a
throughout
continue
history.
on and have that handed over. It's real easy to just say, "Hey, we got a base down in the ocean. You just keep delivering us the yellow rock. We'll throw you a little
Yeah.
tidbit, a little nugget of technology every now and then. We don't even need to fucking talk to you. Make the deliveries. Fort Knox is empty.
Right.
You know."
yeah, literally.
Really, just that's it's. I mean,
Well-
that fucking simple. Just give us the yellow rock, and we'll.
Well,
fucking,
and that goes a
Leave you
little
alone.
bit beyond like
Maybe
what
I'm
we were
part
talking
alien.
about, but
That's my life goal is to have
well,
a life.
and it's interesting
according to
because
ratings,
Stone
we all are.
RH
Stone
blood, you
posted
might
an
be.
article the other day about
RH negative,
RH negative blood.
People
Yeah.
are definitely
Yeah,
odd.
yeah. It's a,
Now you you were talking about, you said it numerous times about people that if they could fly these distances. And let's not forget, we've
If
been
that's
looking
the
at
fact.
Nibiru.
If that's the
we've
fact.
been looking at Nibiru / Planet
3,600
X
years.
/ Ceres coming at us at unreasonable fucking speeds at this
Yeah.
point. Now, it passing, they've moved that timeline way up. NASA's saying it, everybody's saying it's not a hidden fucking fact.
Yeah,
it's coming
no,
at
it's-
us. 12th planet.
It
Read the
exists.
fucking book.
Yeah.
It's in the fucking the writings, all that.
3,600 years
That's
of
the
orbit.
fucking home of the Anunnaki. It's in the book from 12,000 years ago. Named that. That's where they live. It goes in an orbit. Something like
And it's-
this.
and it's
Comes
the
by
same
every
people
3,600 years.
that had an accurate thing of the universe.
And the thing is, it's 3,600 years to
They had
us.
accurate of the planets.
But it's
Well,
not 3,600
So it's
years
kind
to
of scary.
them.
Yeah.
Like, how they
Well-
know all that, and then if you debate, like, oh, what they're saying
well,
is...
and
but then it's
that
like-
aside,
Dean
that
is team, you
aside,
guys.
yeah. How about the fact that there is a Rosetta Stone in California that is a combination of multiple languages on it? How about the reshaping of the entire Earth from
All
a
right.
meteor impact?
The
How about
meteor
the
impact.
weird-looking channels and sunken cities we keep finding? And,
The
and-
Mesopotamians did
Dean, I
write
feel
about
like
the
you should be
impact,
sitting
that it
in
was
my
a
seat
rogue
right now.
planet. Yeah.
well, and
No,
you know,
you did
there
great.
is the fact that here in the last year in Antarctica, there has been found a pyramid approximately the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I want to say it's
Um,
larger, but yeah.
Like I said, approximately the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza. So
Well, they just
it could
found
be
a
larger,
larger
could be
one
smaller.
like 2 years ago
Yeah.
in Mexico, the
And-
biggest one.
and
Covered
there-
in trees.
there are
and
numerous-
fucking
yeah.
massive.
They thought it was just
and
a big
that's
old
just
fucking
it.
hill.
And that was a kid.
Yeah.
That was like some kid from Canada.
Built it all by himself.
Yeah. Well, no, that found it.
built it on my
Fucking
Found it. But yeah, like he was the one that found it
Oh,
on
he
Google
built that
Maps
on
or
my
something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Little kid.
And yeah,
It's
like
for the Legos.
and you know
Just
even
like
that
Legos.
even
Yeah,
that
that's
to go back to our topic of militarization of space. Even if you think of the fact of Google Earth and stuff like that, there's a private company called Google that started with funding from InQtel, which was the CIA.
I was
And
gonna
it's
say.
interesting that now we have all this Google Earth stuff. Even Google, whenever
I use Google Earth every day for my job.
yeah, and quite literally, even
pretty
whenever
dope.
Google
Yeah.
Earth started, they were under lawsuit for actively like
sharing information.
they were breaking into people's Wi-Fi codes. They were actively hacking people's Wi-Fi
Now, that's
networks
not
as
cool.
their car
Yeah.
passed
That is
by
not
to gather
cool.
mass metadata and stuff like that.
That's not.
And
I forgive you, Google.
Oh my god.
yeah,
I forgive you, Google.
And, hey,
Oh
you
my
can
god,
use
now they
Google-
know I like granny porn.
Yeah,
into my life.
What an oddly
But-
specific thing.
They know my fetish.
It was a joke, I
You're
swear.
a Guilford.
now
Who
you're
knew?
gonna have some
No, I'm
crazy
just-
emails about
I am a
granny porn.
grandfather.
Yeah, I'm a
type
grandfather.
guy, so, like, it's really not that weird.
It's
It's fucking old. Like,
Oh my god, that's true. We're old
well,
enough.
I
that
could
that's
call
not
it. I
weird.
could have called it the girls my age.
Or-
They don't call it that on the internet. You know?
No, they don't.
Girls my age. You type it in Google.
Yeah, there's
And then all of a sudden, like, angels appear and somebody comes up to shake your hand.
They're all at the pearly gates with their
Well,
boobs
yeah,
hanging out.
Yeah, they're like, age-appropriate porn? All right.
Age appropriate porn.
Let me put my teeth in.
and these were
Hold on, let me do that.
not just this communication that we have now with not just porn but the internet and our phones and everything was
It's all
literally
just
talked
porn.
about, like I said earlier, by the Brookings Institute in the 1960s.
that
The
sounds
Brookings
familiar.
Institute's job is to be a think tank that extrapolates things and what could happen. And in the 1960s, after Sputnik launched, they were charged with the task of figuring out what the possible implications of space travel would be. If we were to, like the Russians, launch a satellite into space, what could the implications of that be? And some of those implications, even in the 1960s, were A, worldwide communication instantaneously, being able to transmit not only television but radio signals across the planet instantaneously, sharing of information militarily instantaneously, as well as things like weather modification. And should we, which is quite possibly a situation that will happen,
What's that?
run across another intelligent life form, that we should not reveal this to the public.
Well, and that was from a massive poll they did around the same time where they asked the public, what do you think would happen? What would be the reaction if we found life on other planets or it was revealed that there were visitors?
Yeah.
Absolute anarchy was
Well-
the answer from everybody. Get your guns
Yeah.
out.
Right.
Well, and
of
even
course.
even
Right.
historically,
You know, I mean, they didn't like if a
the-
black person
the-
came
the
down
case
the road.
that-
Yeah,
Fucking
right.
act like if a
Alien.
fucking
the
alien
case
came
that
down.
they laid out was quite.
I won't shoot you, alien. Because
Yeah.
you're
Talk about
definitely gonna have
stereotypes.
already
You see this
killed
little
us
green
all.
guy with
It
big
was
black
actively
eyes.
the fact of when confronted.
And there'll
in-
finally be some truth to,
It
like, I
was-
don't care if you're black, green,
Yeah.
purple, yellow.
Right?
Like, oh,
Yeah.
you're talking about aliens.
When you have
you're
an
not just
outside-
an asshole. Good.
Yeah.
When you have
Well,
some from the
and
outside, it'll make you
it
all
was-
come together.
It was the case of anything that
We made him lose his train of thought.
almost.
Yes!
It was that's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy, folks. And it,
Right?
It's-
Gene says if we couldn't handle a gas shortage, there's no way we could handle an outer space immigrant. No fucking doubt.
yeah,
Now,
exactly.
hold on though.
I like the way he worded
there
that.
is a group
I've
of
got a like a
Outer
little
space
space alien
immigrant.
comes down
Yeah,
and
that's
he's
great.
like,
There is a group of people that could handle it and would totally.
Yeah.
SJWs would be.
Well,
all over
and
that shit.
Me?
Yeah.
And they'd
I'd
just
be
be
like, welcome, please don't.
Our
Oh
eat.
my
snowflakes in the
God!
world.
Don't judge them
Do you-
because they blew your mother up with a freaking
Recently,
laser gun and
Amy-
went.
No, that's just it. I was
We are
just
your
about to
friends.
say, recently
Like-
Amy had her first
Right.
viewing ever of Mars
I'm your
Attacks.
friend. We're your friend. You're with that speaker.
Yeah,
There-
that's really good.
there was the
I'm not
woman
really
on-
killing your mother.
Yeah.
There was the woman on top of the hill that would
Yeah.
quite honestly totally be
Yeah.
me. She's there on top of her car
love you,
with like
Amy.
her crystals and like, oh my God, oh it's beautiful,
Yeah.
yes.
And then
You know,
immediate
and
vaporization.
ack, we are your friends. We are not here to harm you. Ack, ack, ack.
Yeah, that would
You know,
be the end of
and-
the social justice warriors. But we would try to give them the benefit of the
You
doubt
would.
until they vaporize the
That's
fuck
right.
out of us.
Good. I read the book. I know how it turns out.
Yeah.
Am I gonna get vaporized?
You read the book.
But what if we had that
That's
day where
too
there's
much
this
work.
UFO
It's
You're
that
more
comes in?
valuable as a slave.
Well, and really,
I'm
what
pretty
the
lazy.
what the Brookings report said was
The
that
Brookings.
throughout the history of this
need
is where I
breeders.
was going a minute ago to bring it back.
Oh, you're
I
bringing
think
it
we're
back.
fine.
I'm bringing it back.
In other words, your
'Cause
train of
it's
thought.
there.
Okay.
The
I got, like,
Brookings
5
report
years left.
What
laid
is it?
out the fact that throughout the
make more
history of mankind,
Right.
Like 4
when
or
a
5 at time.
civilization, period,
Quince,
even a civilization within mankind from the Earth
Right.
came in that was more advanced than the civilization they were conquering or invading, that the local civilization tended to cease to exist. And that was the fear of the Brookings report. That's why they said that, anything that's advanced enough to travel from the stars to us would be able to take us out. So it's within the best interest not to tell the public of it,
Hand 'em
because
Fort Knox.
they will literally panic. They'll literally panic, just like anybody, just like Rome did whenever they found out the Vandals were coming.
Dude, like
You know?
we did when we found out we were low on gas. Which
Yeah.
we fucking weren't
Exactly,
even.
exactly.
So there's a
And-
limit
Or
to
like
that. Wouldn't you say
everyone-
there's a
and
limit
that was
to that
one of
that
the
gets attention
that was
of the
one of the
aliens?
things that Dr. Philip Greer brought up in this documentary was the fact of fear and the fact of that is one of our most primordial responses. That is absolutely. I mean, it's a physical response to survival.
Do you watch
It was
the
part of
Rob
it.
Lowe files?
Oh God, I wish.
Oh
I
my
wish.
God, so
and that's
good.
just it.
They just did an episode on fear and how that's like an evolutionary sort of tactic, to
Mm-hmm.
make you understand. I mean, this show is fucking terrible. I love it. It's my favorite thing.
It's got Rob Lowe in it.
awful. It's got Rob Lowe and it's
Well,
Rob
that's
Lowe and
terrible.
his kids.
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
oh my God, it's the
They went after
worst
Bigfoot one time. I
thing that
heard.
Yeah.
and they didn't find him, of course, because they never find
No,
anything. But
no.
it's like magic. I fucking love it. But this last one,
Rob Lowe.
I know, it's so bad. It's so bad. But the last episode, they actually had a fear expert on.
Yes.
And they put them in really terrible situations to where they would feel fear.
Yeah.
And they analyzed it. And it's like an evolutionary advantage, basically.
Well,
to be
I mean,
able to
it's the
kinda,
same thing. It's the same thing that Rusty Lozano does with his obstacle course up in Addison, Texas, where literally you go in and they will measure your biophysical
Yes,
response.
that's what they were measuring their response.
Yeah,
was
they're
to see,
measuring the how quick how
I like that
You
shit
had to grab
too.
the pad.
You got to read
Yeah.
the cans. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. Well, and
I watch
believe it
a
or not,
lot
I'm in the
of
midst of
TV.
building my own one of those
Oh,
so that we can do it
crazy
here.
shit, man.
Because I
And-
found the
and you're gonna be-
schematics.
Listen,
All right,
I found the
there.
schematics
Listen.
online.
All right
so,
there.
You did for
Tinfoil,
the
Kevin.
cans at Scientology, you found those?
Yeah.
Oh, that's bananas.
Oh, yeah, no.
I'm not going to join another cult,
I'll build
though.
them.
I'm just
No,
putting
you
it
don't
out
have to
there.
join a cult. You don't have to
That's
worship
cool.
me.
You're
Good
already
God.
on one. That's
All
awesome.
I'm asking is
What?
8%.
You're just a
I just
prophet.
want 8%. I don't want all your money.
But I will totally go on the cans.
I just want a state sales tax percent. That's all I want.
Sales tax.
It's not a real cult
If
where I
Dudes
want
in
all
Fear
your money.
becomes
Do we
a
have to wear
religion
tinfoil
where we're
hats?
tax exempt, I'm out. I just want you to know that right now.
Damn it! That was
We're
all my
tax
plans.
exempt
I wear a
because
copper
we don't make
foil
any
hat.
money.
I'm entirely too excited to have you here to go
Lock
tax
that shit.
exempt that way, Julie.
Good.
I don't want their frequencies.
But it is the fact, much like we were talking about before the show, whenever people say, is it possible for secrecy to be carried on that long. Yeah, it is. I mean, good God, we didn't know about the B-2 stealth bomber until it actually actively hit, until it hit Panama in 1989.
I mean, we still don't know who killed Kennedy.
No, we don't. And I'm actively working on that. I was actively working on
that.
I was working on getting Jim Mars on the show for November because this year marks the 50th anniversary of the assassination of John Kennedy. And supposedly a lot of stuff is supposed to be declassified.
Fun
things
fact.
like that.
Like at
Go
least
ahead.
100 pages of redacted information.
This is interesting.
Connolly of the Connolly that was in the car with JFK when he got shot. And my husband's, I want to say grandfather's brother, was the guy in the car that got shot in the leg.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
The governor.
Whoa.
Yes, Governor John Connolly.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. That is my Connollys.
Yeah.
That is my one claim to Texas fame. I married into the Connollys.
That's a pretty decent claim to Texas fame.
Mm-hmm.
Why did that click in my head?
And it is
More importantly, though, Jennifer? No?
No, it's Connolly with an O. She's nothing.
She's nothing.
Hey, when I was like 19, she was everything.
She's pretty.
Not anymore.
But I was working on getting Jim Mars on the show, and he has since passed. And he was one of the people that was foremost in Kennedy assassination research.
He sure was from the get-go almost.
Things like that, as well as research with MUFON.
Yep.
Things like that. So I've made some great connections recently
Texas
with people,
Roswell,
like
Aurora.
I said, like Dr. Stephen Greer, things like that hopefully we will be able to get on the show and talk about that. But I do want to do an entire episode coming up about the Kennedy assassination whenever the anniversary of that comes up, because we are looking at the declassification of a lot of stuff.
A lot of
whether or not we will get the full story
reminds me
of what happened.
100 pages is going to be one word that wasn't blacked out.
Not redacted.
Right.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
going to be
seriously.
There you go, the.
And the only
We
reason
know the truth now.
ampersand.
It was the.
What?
Yeah.
the only reason they do shit like that is so those guys that were there at the time and shit like that, they're almost dead
Yeah.
or are dead.
Well, and that's
It's
just
like,
it.
oh, okay.
Most of it in the past few years has been deathbed confessions,
Right.
things like that, by
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that were there at the time.
big
Which
show,
that I kind
or
of
some
buy
other
because they
it was
got nothing to
called.
lose.
Yeah,
The
that's
big
just
show.
it, and that's kind of where I come from with scientists, and like I know at least on one hand a good number of airline and Air Force pilots who literally I can't say that they've seen things, but they will definitely attest to the fact of
They're not allowed to say.
of if you report something,
You're fucking.
you ain't flying tomorrow.
Nah. You're done.
Well, you
if you report that what you
Right.
whenever one of
I
them
mean-
whenever someone who worked for air traffic control, things like that, comes forward, like that's a pretty big deal, because those are people that literally risk everything.
Yeah.
They risk an
could also
entire
just be
career.
crazy. I know we got to
They
wrap up
could
so
be.
you can go to Houston.
Yeah.
But the only people in my life who have told me about very specific alien encounters were crazy.
Sure.
Well, because
And
the aliens
I'm not
aren't
denying
stupid
that.
enough
And that would make
like,
me crazy.
go
to
in
let
on
you
somebody's-
fucking catch them.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I told you
Or
the
no, not
first big
exactly,
conversation we
but-
had. No, you already admitted to it. Too late. No takebacks.
No gives
If
his
there were
backsies.
aliens,
No
I
gives
would
his
think that
backsies.
they would be smart enough not to,
Right.
like, come into your bedroom in the middle of the night and
Right.
just freak out a fucking paranoid schizophrenic. Like, they're not going to do that.
Sure.
I told you before the first time you had me on when we talked about, I started ranting about aliens. I said I completely believe in all of it. You know how much research I've done, how much study I've done on the subject.
Yeah.
But when somebody tells me that they saw a UFO, I freaking roll my eyes and I'm like, you're
Right.
fucking crazy.
Right.
And is it not necessarily?
That's funny.
If somebody really fucking credible, like if he told me he saw an alien, I'd be like, okay. It's always my kookiest
Yeah.
weird friends who also see ghosts and they see a lot of shit.
I've seen a few odd things in my life. Have I seen something that I would say was strange in the sky?
I've seen odd things on the street in Austin.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
downtown. Like that are pretty unexplainable.
This is
Like, why would you wipe
probably,
poop
like,
all over yourself? That doesn't even make sense.
For a different day, but I owned a preschool a while ago, speaking of ghosts. And literally, kids were napping, and backpacks flew from the hooks across the room.
And you saw that?
And 3 teachers saw it. I didn't, but 3 teachers saw it. Like, reputable people.
Okay. And I have an
like
explanation
Yeah.
for that. So I don't know if I told you my newest theory. And to me, it's an Occam's razor thing. It makes a lot more sense than fucking ghosts. So you have, you've got string theory and all this, physics. So the multiverse and parallel dimensions.
Sure.
So there's parallel dimensions, innumerable parallel dimensions, and you exist in a lot of them. A lot of them you don't. You occupy the same space.
Yes.
And some you don't. So there's little tears in the quantum foam between the parallel universes, and there's leaks, and so you hear footsteps in your house. Could be you in a parallel dimension.
Yeah.
That would be much less creepy.
And in the parallel dimension,
the kids were getting their backpacks.
no, they're hearing. You're hearing you, and the other parallel. So you're literally scaring the shit out of yourself in both parallel dimensions.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I
like
see.
it.
Maybe you reach over to turn on the light,
on this show.
and
Makes a lot of
the
sense.
physical, due to physics and everything else, and the tear in the quantum foam.
Right.
Well,
you
and
hit the
that's-
same light switch in both dimensions.
That's a going theory as well, is the fact of are UFOs possibly something that is interdimensional, something that is
they
even
travel
or is it even possibly time travelers from a future timeline?
Now you're just
from
getting
here,
crazy.
and that's kind of the idea, is to get crazy. And on that note,
Like the
everybody,
Nordics.
as we get crazy, as those things happen,
Looks like
thank
that.
you so much for continuing
Deuces.
to tune in to the Dudes and Beer
New Zealand
podcast. And thank you for continuing to listening to the craziness. I know Stone was just like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
It's weird. There is
Yeah.
a hiccup sometimes whenever we go out live. But, but literally, everybody, thank you so much. Keep tuning in. We thank you. Until next time, if you can't be good, be good
Thanks
at
for
it.
listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our audio streams and chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for both Android and iDevices, available on the Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the Revolution Digital Group family of podcasts. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.
Boom.